Hello, I'm Tom Terry. I'm the president of the board of Ocean Pines Association, and I was elected to the board in 2010.
Hello, I'm John McLaughlin. I'm vice president of the board, and I've been a member since 2008.
I'm Pete Gomsack, and I was elected to the board in 2009. I'm the treasurer of the organization, and so I'm in my second year on the board.
Hi, I'm Rick Handelman. I was appointed to the board by these gentlemen in 2010.
Hi, I'm Les Purcell. I'm the secretary of the board, and I'm serving my 4th term as we speak.
Hi, I'm Dave Stevens. I was re-elected for my 2nd term in 2010.
And I'm Ray Unger. This is my 2nd term on the board in Ocean Pines. The flag. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Go over the agenda. Start with public comment, and then we'll have a presentation on the Country Club Management Contract from Bob Thompson. A presentation on the future direction of food and beverage from Bob Thompson. Public comment adjourned. Dave, I think you wanted to add.
Yeah, if I may, we have an application for Budget and Finance Committee. Can we dispose of that in this meeting?
Sure. We'll just do that before we.
I mean it in a positive way, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to comment on the agenda, Tom.
Please do.
I make a motion that we remove Bob's portion of food and beverage from the agenda until we resolve the issue of outsourcing, one way or the other. I think it's premature for Bob to start making his presentation on how we handle food and beverage without knowing whether or not we're going to outsource either golf and or food and beverage.
Okay. Comment?
Do you think there's any doubt about the food and beverage part of it?
Yeah,
You do?
I think first we got to.
I do too.
I think we first have
How
to
long are we
vote.
going to wait, a year?
I think we first have to vote up or down on golf, depending how that goes. Then we got to, again, look at, we did have a motion presented at the last board that was tabled, or wasn't tabled, was not heard.
Not presented.
Was not presented because we put the food and golf on there. So I still think, until we put outsourcing of food and beverage to bed, Bob's presentation is premature and should be held at a regularly scheduled board meeting. I have not seen his presentation to be even able to discuss it today. Just my
We've got
thoughts.
to give it in order for us to discuss.
No, he could have put it in a package so we could all review it like we reviewed other packages. So we would have a chance to discuss it and understand what's being presented.
How far are we on the contract?
Well, we're going to find that out, aren't we?
How far are we?
Yeah.
We have an insurance certificate to settle and we're done.
There's a motion on the table, anybody second it?
No, nobody seconded yet.
Do I have a second for John Smith?
I'll second for purposes of discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
I have mixed feelings about it. I think we have heard little. Well, first of all, let me say that I agree 100% with Bob that we should not have presentations unless we see the material in advance.
You're talking about me.
You said you agree with Bob.
Agree, I'm saying Bob.
You mean John?
Yeah, I mean John.
with me on something. I thought yes.
No,
Oh, okay.
forget it. Don't
No
even
chance.
think about
Okay,
it. No
I got
chance. I think you should have time to be able to, read it and ask the questions, and I think that ought to be a standard way of doing business. Now, having said that, I am not at all sure that it's inappropriate for Bob to proceed ahead based upon the vote that we had at the last meeting. Outsourcing the yacht club is not a totally dead issue. I agree with that. It certainly can come up. I don't know that it's contingent one way or another on what happens with golf. But the last point I just want to make, from the little bit I've heard, Bob, and actually, Bob, you know, most of what I heard is reading in the paper. Thanks, Tom. I mean, that's kind of where you get your information.
Well, that's the point.
And exactly is the point, but I'm not sure from what I read in the paper that this isn't something that, you know, if it's within the budget and it's within the general manager's authority and the general manager, you know, wants to put an innovative idea in the yacht club, that you just can't do it.
That's right. He doesn't need our permission to go ahead and do what he's doing anyway.
No, but he does need our permission to spend extra money, and I don't know that yet, whether that's not even a factor in the equation. So I guess I don't object to hearing it, but.
I'd like to comment at least on one part of what Dave Stevens said. I, for one, find it not at all objectionable to hear information in a board meeting not having received it in advance in writing so that we could discuss it. The purpose of a board meeting is to have a business meeting of this group and to convey ideas and put up suggestions and motions and presentations. I think it's ludicrous to insist that everything we're going to discuss be received in advance in writing. That's my view. It contrasts sharply with Dave Stevens, but that's my view.
If I may, it doesn't contrast that sharply, and I agree with you in parts.
Okay.
And I think the only part that I don't agree on is if any kind of a board vote or decision is required or expected out of that presentation, then no, I want to see any information in advance. I don't want to sit and think about it and make up my mind and do an analysis based upon what I hear on a few slides.
And I'll just make one last comment and we'll move on. At least I'll move on. You know, the board has a chance, if it hears information and doesn't have enough information, it simply says, you know what, we don't have enough information, let's table that until the next meeting. Or Bob, we need to know the following 5 things, and before I'm prepared to vote on this, I need to know the answer to those 5 things. Could you get those 5 things and we'll have another meeting? So we always have it within our power to act or to not act based on what we judge to be the sufficiency or insufficiency of the information, Dave. Now, if you're the only one there out of 7 members who feels you don't have enough information, and all the other 6 believe they have enough information, then, and the group is wants to call the question, then so be it. I mean, that's how we ought to be operating, I think. Anyway, that's it.
I believe we already charged the general manager to put together a plan so that we could continue to operate the yacht club internally here, and that's exactly what he's been able to do for the last month or so. And for us to sit here and say we don't want to hear it is, to me, silly. I think we need to hear it before we make any decision.
I think you're all missing my point. My point is that we have not resolved the outsourcing issue both for food and beverage and golf. And then in between that, we're going to sandwich in Bob's presentation.
I bet with
At the end of the last meeting, we talked about having a special board meeting to discuss one thing and one thing only, and that was the contract. Suddenly, this again was sandwiched in. You know, there are certain things, I agree with both Dave and Pete regarding, do we need everything? Something as important as this, we should have had it beforehand.
Okay.
That's all.
My sense is that the order of the agenda was put together for a purpose. We have a discussion of the country club management contract. We can vote that up or down if there's a motion to accept it or not. At that point, we will either have outsourced or not. We will either hired someone to run the country club golf course campus, or we would not have. At that point, the issue of outsourcing food is not dead, has not been dead, has not been taken off the table. We've not had a vote up or down on outsourcing food at all. If we have a motion to outsource food, this information we would get from Bob, to me, is very valuable to know in the discussion of that. it is not my thoughts that this presentation will necessarily lead to a up or down vote on outsourcing of food. It's a matter of how do we keep moving in the yacht club or wait. John, I understand your point, and we've talked about it before, and I saw no reason.
Call the
not
vote.
to- Okay. Pete?
Just to add to what you said a moment ago, and the question that Les asked earlier, it would be my intent to, once we discuss and act on it, if we act on it, any proposal with respect to golf only, to introduce that which was not introduced at the last meeting, so that we all have an opportunity to weigh in on whether or not we think outsourcing food and beverage is a good idea or not. Majority rules. If the majority says no, then that's fine, it's the end of it. But I do intend to do that.
Okay. Rick?
I just want to implore the board of directors here to, let's do something today. Let's get something done, something tangible, something that we can start the ball rolling. Whatever it is.
That's hopefully why we're here today, Rick. I'll call the question on the motion.
Yeah.
All in favor?
I'll withdraw my second, so we don't need it. I mean, I was gonna vote against it anyway, John.
No, that's
so
fine.
We don't have to, so there's no second.
I'm on record saying what I wanted to
That's
say.
fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
No, that's fine. I have no problem with that at all. Okay, public comment.
You all are here for a
All
reason.
these things.
Speak your mind.
Okay, well,
How do you know? Did you talk to them all? Huh? Did you talk to them all?
Everyone. Yeah.
Good.
we do have one appointment to, and I'm just gonna put it in at this point, to the Budget and Finance Committee. Everyone had a copy of it in their mailbox. Bruce Quaid, I know Bruce.
Yeah.
Talked to the chairman last night, said he was very valuable in the meeting the other day. Listened, asked a lot of good questions. But I've not had a chance to talk to the liaison to that committee on that yet. So Pete, I'll take your lead on this if you want to talk to Bruce before we actually.
No. Actually, Bruce had expressed an interest perhaps a year ago and actually attended a meeting or so, and I did talk to him at that time. So as long as the chairman, because there's no indication on the form that the chairman has signed off on it.
I talked to him last night.
I believe we put in place a good procedure with this form, and I would hope that in the future we would have committee chairs actually indicating their approval on the form, so you don't have to call them the night before.
Yeah, well, I saw him.
Okay, well, if you hadn't seen him, then you wouldn't know. My point is that I'm supportive, as long as the chair, and you indicate the chair is supportive, so fine.
Any objection?
No.
Okay. He's appointed. Okay. Mr. Thompson, would you like me to move so you can use your screen?
Either that or bounce
Either that or
off you,
move
my
my
man. It's up to you.
White shirt on.
To my spot.
Just the lights behind you, sir.
We'll try one. Is that okay? Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
It gets a little hard to see your.
If you want the minutes to be a straight line.
Oh, yeah. Just hit the first one.
That would be an improvement.
There you go.
That would be an improvement.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Okay,
Just one. There you go.
what I'm going to do is run through a brief presentation about the golf outsourcing. I'm going to give a little history. I'm going to just bring up to date on some of the Q&A that was shared with the board in case everyone didn't have the opportunity to read those and kick those questions around. I'm going to point out some numbers, and then I would encourage any of you all that have been reading the emails and performing and everything has come out to jump in as we go through it. This part's designed to be very interactive with you guys. Do a quick just snapshot, a little backtrack so we understand exactly what started this. Some things that we picked up, and this was part of a brief part of a presentation that was done back in February. I've pulled some of that information just to give an update. Basically, one of the golf profit builders outside reviews showed that when we looked at our rounds per year were low. So again, I'm building the case of why outsourcing is a good strategy, at least to consider at this point. For facility types that match ours, again, some of you guys have already seen this, but we fall into the 28,000 rounds. We're actually should be high. We should be between the 31 and 40 for our type of course. Okay, where our actual annual rounds are 28,000. One of the other outside folks that came in and did an evaluation, one of the consulting firms, said hiring an outside management company at Ocean Pines is a reasonable option. Again, these are all things that occurred over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years that led us to where we are today. Losses on the golf course, you guys have seen the numbers over and over, but I just thought it was important to bring up some of the, again, the history, show the graphs of where we are, what's got us thinking about this strategy today. Membership. Membership numbers continue to decline year after year. These were actual numbers that show where we are now, approximately 312, and we're closer to 302, I believe, is the number, but these were from my February slides. What I did was put together the membership numbers in a little different way. I showed the number of users versus number of property. Again, nothing new. I'm just want to make sure I go over a recap for everybody, especially for the gentlemen who were not here before when we did this.
And Bob, I've seen these several times.
Yes.
You know, I just want to comment for the benefit of the public here that what he is showing is memberships. That is those who prepay at the beginning of the season a certain sum of money to allow them to play golf throughout the entire year. What it does not reflect is the number of people who play golf, Ocean Pines residents who play golf at the course, which is approximately 10 times those numbers. So the last information I have suggests that about 4,000 individuals played golf at the Ocean Pines golf course last year. You're looking at the membership. There are vastly greater numbers of Ocean Pines members who play that golf course, but they're not paying $1,000 or $1,200 in advance, okay?
How many non-resident rounds? 28,000?
Is there an expert in the room? Yes. I'd like to defer that question, if I may, to, and I don't want to sidetrack you. I just want to make the observation, and the gentleman there at least clarified for me that was helpful. But the question is, how many
Outside people,
outside the community?
Outside rounds.
outside,
Non-Ocean Pines members?
no, not Ocean Pines residents.
OPA members, that's the term we use, right?
No,
Since more-
non-OPA members.
Well, I mean, for example, yeah, how many non-OPA members?
They're not members of
That's the question.
Residents.
Yeah, we don't,
No,
we only talk about members because the people who own property on the other side of the shore are not residents, but they're members. So we've been doing that since Marty Clark came on.
Bob, my guess is you know the answer. What's the answer?
Bob Kessler? Percentage of rounds with outside play?
We were collecting that data.
Probably only about 15 to 20%.
15 to 20%.
Okay.
Bob, how about the number of 4,000 residents,
Members.
members?
I am not going back and got that information by name, but I would be surprised if it's that high because you've got an average of 7,000 to 8,000 resident rounds a year. If that's, if there's 4,000 people playing, that means they're playing less than one time each. And we know there's a lot of people that buy coupons and play, so I think the number is probably less than that.
But I'll stipulate, Pete, that the number's large without.
Bob, what would you, now there is a list, a computerized list that's been prepared, not scrubbed, but prepared. For some reason or other, prior managements have not been successful in scrubbing it. And by scrubbing it, I mean, there's a list of 3,900 and some names on that list. Sometimes it's R. Thompson and Bob Thompson, duplicates, okay? But that's a $4,000, so we don't know, but I guess, I'm going to ask you to guess, is it around 3,000? You don't know, okay, fine, fine. It's thousands, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, it's thousands.
Moving right along.
Okay, so this was just, again, a snapshot, and many of you folks know, we've shown these slides before. Some facts: members are the foundation of the golf course and have been. Our course is in awesome shape. We've had some glitches this summer due to weather, but every day it seems to be improving. We have a unique draw, being the type of course, and it does create value for our property. Our members continue to climb while losses continue to increase. These are facts. I mean, these are all what led us to consider looking at some outside strategies to help us manage the golf course.
Membership in
Golf membership.
Golf membership has to continue.
The previous
to climb.
300 odd names.
Yes.
Total rounds are up.
We need to find a better way to do it. That's what started this whole process. Again, I just always like the quotes of motivation. Okay, I wanted to include this slide because it set off a firestorm at the meeting last week, and I've had calls and challenges. I just want to point out, this was given in the GM report, the golf operations.
Excuse me, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Les, would you mind if we turn the lights off? Seeing that red is very difficult.
Yeah, I can't read it.
Turn it off.
I don't know how it impacts on your rating. Thanks.
There you go.
No, I'll get along.
Thing I want to point out, I don't mean to lean out, you're right, Tom. It's right here, this number in particular, 119. We talked about that line of golf showing that this was our projected numbers from now through the end of the year. And with our projected losses in our budget of $185,000, employing a management contract, and these were as effective last week without more data or hard numbers, we added $119,000 in costs. Okay, so that's where the 304 came from. I just want to make sure I click.
You added 119,000 in costs?
No. Well, if you recall, at the GM report at the
Right,
regular
I do recall.
scheduled meeting, I presented the 304,
Right,
this slide exactly.
Right.
185 was our projected losses per the budget,
Right.
with the additional costs of an outside management contract. At that time, we added numbers into it,
Right.
which increased our losses by
There you go.
119,000.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
That's not how you said it. That's okay.
That's, what year am I looking at? As of 4/30,
This is the same slide from last
and
week.
11.
This is the same thing. We discussed it several times. I just wanted to bring it up so everybody knew where my numbers came
The
from.
projected variance for the full year is $119,000.
Okay,
Negative.
so those are the costs that, but as you know,
The costs are just-
we have questions concerning
Those are the old cards.
those.
I wanted to give this to you because as of data that was presented prior to this meeting, because we have updated data. And I think it's fair to include where we were so I can show you the new information.
Bob, if I may, year-to-date, and we all get the financial statements as directors, golf on a year-to-date basis through the end of September is $25,000 behind the budgeted amount. 25,000 negative variance already built in. So in other words, if we achieved budget for the rest of the year in golf, we budgeted $185,000 loss, correct?
Correct.
We're already 25,000 behind, correct? Bart?
Yes.
Yes, okay, that's a yes, all right? So if nothing else would change, if we were dollar for dollar in accordance with the budget from here on out, the loss would be 210. If we didn't do anything different about outsourcing every other revenue line item and every other expense item from here on out until the end of April is right on in sync, our loss for the year will be a negative to budget 210.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you, Bob, because there were a lot of questions as to where the...
And that's why I thought I'd bring it. I knew it was going to open the door a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to look at it.
But this is not based on the...
Not negative to budget, by the way, loss.
Correct. Correct. Okay. Some additional information, and this went out on all the board packets, but I figure we'd have a lot of folks in the room here. I don't want to necessarily go into great detail because I did email this out to all board members within the last few days. But I want to go over some specifics about the contract that we've started to close the gap on, so for clarity. The term of the contract, we're down to, it's a 3-year contract. However, due to the fact that we're midway through the OPA fiscal year, we're recommending we're extending the contract by the 6 months, so the actual contract ends up being 42 months. I didn't want there to be any, well, it was a 3-year contract. It is a 3-year, but what we're suggesting is adding 6 months to get us to the May date. That way it lines up with our fiscal year moving forward.
I don't know why that really matters. If you have a 90-day, you can extend the contract at the end of the 3 years. I mean, if you sign the contract tomorrow, you got 3 years, 90 days prior to the end of the 3 years, you can still sign a new contract. I mean, I don't think the beginning and ending the 6 months makes a big deal one way or the other.
Pete, you want to say something?
I think it does make a big deal, John. To bring it into alignment with our fiscal year, I think is awfully, awfully important because we are going to measure their performance on the basis of adherence to budget or not. The incentive compensation part of the contract will be administered on a better than budget or not. I'd hate to have 2 budget years, one for us and one for them. So bringing them into alignment was a very simple matter of making the initial 6 months be the last 6 months of this fiscal year for us, and then a fresh start starting May 1, 2011. So it was really about us and bringing it into alignment with our own financial and not having 2 sets of budgets and numbers. There's also a seasonality thing here that is awfully, awfully important. They're not going to have, as Bob suggested at the last meeting, much of an impact in revenue on the remainder of this fiscal year. We enter into this contract, if we do, on November 1st. I don't think they're going to produce a lot of rounds in December. What do you all think? Or January or February. But that's when you do all the planning and getting things in line and doing the budgets and doing all the planning necessary for the next fiscal year, which begins May 1. So the seasonality factor is very much. Right. And just coincidentally, November 1st is exactly midpoint of our fiscal year.
Are we, no, you're making it. I'll ask the question anyway.
Okay.
Are we paying the same rate the first 6 months?
It's a monthly rate.
Yes.
So monthly rate's the same?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
There'll be a lot of activity in that period of time.
How and when can we terminate the contract? Again, these are questions that have been coming up a lot in the last few weeks. And just want to make sure everybody knows, you're able to terminate this contract given a 90-day written notice. Now, the only exception to this is we're part of the contract is we're going to give them 1 full year of operation per our fiscal year. Okay? It's hard to terminate, it would be unfair to say we're going to terminate a contract 3 or 4 or 6 months into it when we've not given them an opportunity to perform. That's the purpose of asking management company to come in, is to give them a chance to perform better than we have.
So we're actually giving them a year and a half.
Correct. Initially, yes, that's correct.
So we cannot default in the first year and a half.
Well, they can
Not default. It's not default.
We cannot terminate for default in the first year and a half.
No, we can't. We can't terminate for convenience.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction.
Yeah.
What he just said was important. Terminate convenience. Sorry, we changed our mind. There are other ways, legal grounds for termination that have, but we're talking about for convenience here. We changed our minds.
I misunderstood what Bob said. I thought you said we could not terminate for default in the first year.
For convenience.
No, you did say default, and that's good.
That would have been my mistake then.
That's wrong.
And if we wanted to terminate for convenience, even in the first year and a half, I mean, it would be a cost to go with that. So I don't know why we would take that option off the table. I mean, if we decide that we don't want it, we're just going to have to go to court and resolve out of here. I mean...
We can always pay them for a year and a half. Basically, we pay them for a year and a half.
Not necessarily. You pay them for costs sometimes,
I understand part of the reason for this is clarity. You're right. We could go to court. probably a bad thought process stepping into a new contract. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just
What I'm saying is, it's never a bad thought process to have the option to terminate a contract for convenience at any time, knowing that when you do that, there may be costs involved. But to take it off the table and tie our hands for a year and a half, I don't know whether that's a good deal. It's not going to hurt them any. It's a decision that we, the board, have to make, not them. It's our convenience.
Maybe we would be wise to tie our hands.
We have been doing the terminate the contract any time. He's paying about 1.5 years of the
We
money.
can pay
that
the full
they-
fee and be out of there.
Right?
yeah, we could.
We can pay the full fee and be out of there.
Right, exactly.
You know, I mean,
So that's-
Yeah, not a problem.
I'm just
Not a problem.
guys. I'm
It is
just pointing out some
No,
facts of the contract.
3 months in.
this is a regular old clause, but I mean, you know, the real thing about that is
John's point
what,
is to settle it. If you want to get out of this 3 months in, we would write a check to Billy Casper Golf for all the fees we owe them for the first year and a half. And
Or whatever.
well, that's
Or whatever.
sort of my
We're done.
point is, that if you don't know what the termination fee is, that doesn't mean anything.
well, we do know what it is.
We do know what it is.
Well, we don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
No,
I don't know what it is.
I have no idea what the termination fee was.
$50,000,
Okay.
which is a very, very good deal. For convenience, that's a very well negotiated price.
Okay, so we
I
can.
suspect there's a lot of things that we haven't heard yet. that we're
Right.
gonna
Well,
hear.
I understand that, Les, but we're talking about the termination clause, the convenience termination clause at this point in time.
Okay.
And
It's a
what
fair
I'm
question.
hearing is
Fair
that
question, just answer it.
if we decide to terminate 3 months down the line, it's gonna cost us $50,000.
No.
No.
3 months down the line, you owe them all of their fees for the contract.
Let me ask,
Termination for convenience. That's-
Convenience.
For convenience. But You
before,
don't go into these negotiations, I mean, John's point is correct. You always want to have the right to get out, and you do, but you pay for it to get out.
Understood.
But you go into this, you're asking Keely Casper to come in as a partner to work with us. We're basically saying, look, we'll give you a year and a half where we're not gonna, for 50 grand, throw you out. We negotiated 18 months, then we negotiated 50, which is a very reasonable price for early termination.
Okay.
So I think we have a good partnership arrangement there. So, Pete?
Let's put it in perspective. If we as a board are entering into some kind of a contract here and we're contemplating getting out in 3 months, we got some problems.
I didn't say that.
I understand.
Okay,
I
please.
understand, I understand.
All I said was, we're tying our hands for a year and a half with no termination of convenience ability.
By the way, the annual fee is $66,000 of management fee for golf only, okay? So if you're halfway into it and you're talking about another 6 months, ladies and gentlemen, it's $33,000. Let's move.
Do a lot less than if we took care of it ourselves.
I can see us going through all, when are we gonna get to see this contract? Never? Soon?
It's
Sometime?
been sitting in Bob's office for the last 2 days.
Oh, and when was the email saying that I should come in and
Wait a
look
minute,
at
that's
that?
not, that's,
Well, we've
Come
been
on,
asking
what?
you
I'm
that.
good. All right, well, let's make sure we clarify. The
We've been
final
negotiating
contract
that.
is not sitting in the office.
Right.
Mr.
We've been
Moore is now,
negotiating this, going back and
Correct.
forth, and we're presenting the issues that people cared about
correct.
in the questions they asked, and we're answering them.
Okay, well,
In some logical order.
I asked that question because it's clear that we're going to have other questions that will specifically, the answers of which will specifically depend upon what's written in the contract.
And you can ask any question you want.
Well, I already have, and I
You were answering.
will do it.
Have you gotten
do it
answers?
public- No.
These are,
You have not gotten answers to your
No.
questions.
What's the question?
these are your questions.
Well, we'll get to them as we go through them.
Okay.
I've been reading emails, Dave.
Yeah,
Wait,
well,
wait,
you didn't read
here, guys,
closely
here,
enough.
if you don't mind, I'd like to get through it, and then we'll turn the lights on.
Okay,
You
I
guys-
No more
think we had a
questions.
simple
No more
question.
questions.
Are we going
Well,
to
no,
get
no,
to
no, I
see this
think,
contract?
I think you
before
gotta
a
have
decision is
questions
made?
as we
Understood.
All right.
go along.
Understood.
Fine. and my
As we
question's
look at
answered.
this, my next question would be, can Billy Casper terminate for convenience if they don't think it's going right? A
No.
lot of times in these service contracts, you put an option in there that says, hey, look, this isn't working out for both of us. My reputation's on the line. I want to step away at no cost. You know that, Tom. You've seen that. You know.
Okay, what will the management structure look like under BCG operations? BCG is going to put an on-site full-time employee here that manages and has full responsibility and authority to manage the operations. Now, the employee may have, and probably will through our discussions, a designation such as a head golf professional, PGA pro of some sort. That was a question that kept coming up. And in talking with them, that's what their target is. That way you have one position overseeing and as a PGA pro.
And they've budgeted that position
Correct.
in
Yeah.
the pro forma.
Correct.
Yeah, I think we said that last week. Yeah, just to point out, I mean, as we're going along, because we are, one of the purposes of this is to look at this relative to other proposals. The other proposal, this is exactly what the other proposal was to hire a pro.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Scope and authority, this just goes a little further. These are one of the questions that came up. Basically, the country club operations. Now, we have reserved the right to use the second floor through coordination for other activities should, we deem, Ocean Pine Association deem, we want to use it for something. We have access to it.
For free?
Yes.
We are, for free, I mean, we are Ocean Pines, we bear the full P&L consequences of any of this.
Well, there's no charge.
Yeah, there's no.
So it's a cross charge, we could charge one department, be revenue for one department, expense for another.
Well, I think Billy Casper is going to be interested in, as other departments are in Ocean Pines, by the way, in their bottom line
Sure.
for golf.
Sure, the incentive.
Okay, now again, getting into what the contract will say, I think it comes up again in these Q&As, but the purchasing required to conduct is responsibility of BCG. All
Within the
purchasing-
budget.
Within the budget is the words that I didn't see in there.
Yeah, it's within the
It's
budget.
all over the contract, they have
But
to
it-
stay within their budget.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm just pointing it
Budget that
out.
we have, that's fine, it's a budget we have to approve.
The critical aspect of that is that last sentence again, but may not be limited to food. How does that impact upon the yacht club catering upstairs on the second floor of the of the country club?
In discussing with BCG, they're not in a position or they're not focused on competing. I know it came up last week and it's going to be a debate issue for you guys, but truth of the matter is they're here to run our golf operations and in support of that golf operations. If they want to do a catered event on the second floor to support a golf outing, we should
That's
be...
not what I'm asking.
Okay.
We want to use it to cater an event. Okay?
Second floor of the country club?
Second floor of the country club.
Yes.
That reads that they're going to buy the food for us?
No, we have access and use of that facility. This is for their operations.
Yeah.
So in other words, if they, example, John, if I start answering
Okay.
Mingo, you say, I didn't, I want to make sure I'm hearing you, maybe I missed the question. We can use that facility. If
I
we
hear that.
decide to use it for a banquet, we're able to do so. And if we want to have it catered by our yacht club, we can do so.
That should be spelled out clearly in the contract because that is not clear.
Okay?
That is not clear.
Yeah.
I've been down that road many times in previous life.
The words "this operation" is has to specifically be the golf operation. One other point on that is that, and in my prior conversations with Joe Reinhardt, I mean, he had no problem at all with the idea that BCG, if they're running this, could bring in Denovas or Carrabba's or anybody that they wanted to do the catering. Only stipulate, that he'd like to be one of the options, obviously. So it is up to them to do that for their golf-related events.
Again, it wasn't the golf-related events that I was so much concerned about.
Yeah, the other
It's
events.
the other events where they may, at their choosing, based upon that there, purchase the food and charge back to us at some additional rate. That's all I'm saying.
John, you make a very good point, as long as we understand it's all under a pre-planned and pre-approved budget. They don't have free reign outside the budget to do that. So
I don't quite understand that. If you come to me and say, I'm going to have a catering event, which is not planned, okay, someone comes in, I'm going to use the club, then I go back and I say, I'm purchasing the food. That's within my contract. And by the way, I'm going to charge you an additional 5% for it.
Well,
I'm just
that's who
asking for
you're charging.
clarification, huh?
Who are you charging?
Charge them back to
We have
the
the
OP?
right to, well, let's understand, we were very specific in negotiating that that second floor was ours to use at no additional fee of any kind.
I'm not questioning that, Tom.
Okay.
I'm only questioning the purchasing of the food, which that previous slide states that they can purchase the food. Doesn't have anything to do with the budget.
If I cater it through them, then they can purchase the food. There's no
doesn't say that.
requirement that I cater it through them.
I think that needs to be spelled out, that we can run our own catering events up there. That's not spelled out in that clause.
Okay. Good point.
I think the intent, Tom, as I had understood it, and the words said to me, was that Ocean Pines has the right to use that upstairs for Ocean Pines related events, be it banquets or catering, whatever. And that in such cases, we would be responsible, not them, for conducting that event and purchasing the food and cleaning it up and so forth. So,
Gentlemen, I only go back to the point of the YMCA contract where we thought we had it right, the spin contract where we thought we had it right. If it's not spelled out in black and white to our advantage, it's not spelled out as we wrote the contract. That's all I'm saying.
Got it. Got it.
Okay.
How would the expenses of the country club operation be managed? Just wanted to make sure it was clear to everybody that the expenses pass through straight to us. I mean, BCG manages the facility, but they're, in essence, they're our expenses. Okay? Had some folks questioning that. I just want to make sure I had that out there. What happens to the employees of the golf and country club once the BCG contract is executed? BCG assumes the BCG, when they come in and take over, the employees become their employees. Under their benefits package, under their program, they take over for the training, the benefits, it's their employee. Once again, understand their costs that get passed through to us, bottom line.
So we pay the money for them,
Yes,
but they are their employees.
correct. They manage them, they supervise them, they coach them, they train them,
Provide the benefits package for them.
provide the
How's it-
benefits package.
So if we're paying them, they're their employees, the money is transferred into their account?
It's just a pass-through.
They're just,
The critical aspect
they're just
of it.
reimbursing
yeah,
them.
let me, what happens here is, basically, we Ocean Pines are responsible for all operating expenses. Okay. The way that's managed is that all the disbursements are made by Casper. We start with a bank account that says operating account, put $50,000 in it, which is roughly a month's worth of expenses. And then each month you replenish that just as we would do it ourselves. So, but all the costs are ours, they're managing it. This is a management contract. And so all the expenses, the employees, supplies, turf issues, all comes out of this operating account, which is a separately created account that's managed by them, and the monies go into and out of those. So the golf fees go into that account, the salaries come out of that account. It's all a separately managed account specific to this operation.
I think the critical aspect is BC&G has the right to hire and fire at their discretion.
Precisely.
That's correct.
That's the bottom line.
Yes.
Yeah, let me, John, if I can just,
Does that answer
there is an
your question,
overarching,
Okay.
there, unless you're gonna cover this in your slides later, I'm gonna do it now. Because
go
I
ahead,
think it's
John.
very critical that people understand the scope and the authority, because it is important that we understand that if we go to a management company, we are giving that company the authority to manage that campus. They will have the autonomy, they will have the authority. Bob Thompson is the general manager of Ocean Pines, will have the authority only if that decision that they make, and I give the example of they decide to cut grass at 5 o'clock in the morning. Bob Thompson, as the general manager of the association, can go to Casper, the Casper leader, and say, you are affecting the rest of this community. You have to, let's talk about this 5 o'clock in the morning grass cutting thing. Day-to-day management of the country club campus moves to the company who's managing it. The overall management of the relationship between Ocean Pines and would be Casper is Bob Thompson's job. That's the responsibility. The owner of the contract legally is the owners of Ocean Pines, represented by the board of directors. So the day-to-day management is Casper with oversight for decisions that affect the rest of the community, but the day-to-day management is not, we don't walk in there and start telling people what to do. Dave, and then John.
You sort of brought up another point, as is going to happen. Is there an overall statement that they must manage this contract in accordance with the terms or the provisions in our policy resolutions, our bylaws, and our design
specifically
restrictions?
states that in the contract.
So they are bound, by all those things, and that's an upfront thing.
Yeah.
That would probably exclude, although I don't think that's in the form of a resolution yet, our employment manual, for an example, or our employment policies. In other words, they're not bound
No, they're
by
not
that.
our employees.
They're bound by theirs.
Yeah, they're
right.
okay. Yeah. John?
Currently, Bob is in charge of personnel hiring, firing.
Mhm.
So when we go to, if we in fact do go to this, he no longer has that authority or decision-making when it comes to the, okay.
The only portion of that discussion is our agreement on who they bring in to be the overarching manager.
Okay.
Once that person is in place, they have the authority to run the campus.
Okay.
And then there's a whole evaluation system, which we may get to later. If we don't, we'll
That's
talk
fine.
about it. Okay, go ahead.
Ownership of the facility, how are expenses such as insurance handled, expenses of insurance? Again, it's our facility, it's our building, our structure, we maintain that.
Go back.
Yes.
So they're gonna hold us harmless. If they're saying any liabilities resulting from the, is gonna be their responsibility, is that correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
we
is
have-
there a statement in there saying that they will hold us harmless?
Yes, there it is.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
Have potential renovations, major rehab work in the facility been discussed with BCG? We have discussed it extensively. They understand, and what was interesting when we brought that topic up, this has occurred. They manage 120 courses. This has occurred with several of the courses that they've managed, and they actually had some good ideas of how to make that work. Should we decide to, as the country club being one of our facilities, that we're going to do a rehab, a renovation, whatever it ends up being, they understand that, and they'll help us manage through that so we don't disrupt the golf operations. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I figured they would do that, but in the same context, do they clearly understand that this is on the radar screen?
Yes.
And going to happen, perhaps, probably not, but even perhaps during the period that there'd be,
Yeah.
maybe the extended period.
They know the possibilities
But
there.
I don't think, I think they can do a workaround, I have no doubt about that. But what that also suggests is that there are no major renovations that are going to happen to that building in the meantime. In other words, you're not going to sink a lot of money into, changes, even if they're cosmetic, to when you're going to do something with the entire building.
Well, that's a separate issue from their contract. I mean, that goes into our 10-year planning, that
Well,
comes to the
when they
board
come in,
for-
when they come in and they're looking at the pro shop and they're looking at the Turner's Grill, I'd be amazed if they didn't have some ideas, probably a lot of them good, that said, boy, if we can just turn this thing around and do these things, we can get off to a, better start. And I'm just saying that's a factor that operates against doing that, and it's a, frankly, it's a disadvantage, to the company.
They felt comfortable because I asked the question, the facility in its current condition, notwithstanding.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah, notwithstanding any structural that we don't know about, wiring,
Well,
plumbing,
problems
that
have to be fixed, yeah.
Correct, but they understand, I mean, they've been down on several visits, and I asked that question was, can you operate under the current conditions with the facility as is? And the overwhelming answer was yes.
Okay.
How's technology, software, hardware addressed in the contract? This was one that came up from a couple different people. BCG does have proprietary software that they use. They've created, they use it for their marketing, they use it for some management tools. That remains their software. Any data that's collected, player information, the amount of rounds, any of that, that remains our, that's our data. So if we ever separate from the contract, we have full access to that data, the spreadsheet, whatever the means that it comes to us in disk, spreadsheet, lists, we own that. But there is some proprietary software. In particular, they have a ACE training that they use, and they use their software. It's their training platform that they've developed to train employees. That's theirs. We don't have, they utilize it to help us get better here while under contract, but should the contract, be unplugged, that's their software. We're not buying their software.
Proprietary.
If I can,
Sure.
I don't know how that helps us to keep the data. It depends on whether or not the data is in a form that's compatible with the software. Let's suppose we terminate them. They take their software out. We want to put our software in. Is the data that we've accumulated over 2 years or 3 years compatible at all with the software we would put in?
You know what?
Or are we stuck?
Truth of the matter is, Dave, I won't know that until with and then that actually happens. From a standpoint, they may just print out names, rounds of golf that we have to key back in.
I think compatibility issues are probably things that you could find out right now, as a matter of fact. But
Well, now tell me this. 3 years from now, we disengage from the contract. What software do I say it needs to be compatible with 3 years from now?
But, I think the question is better asked, what software will it be compatible? If the answer is none, then you don't have to figure out what software it would be. And at a minimum, if the answer is, well, the software we have right now, and it's not compatible with that, then the fact of the matter is that, we'll be stuck.
Softwares are changing 3 years.
Well, of course,
Software.
the software will change, but
I guess Dave's
But
point is
up and
that,
down compatibility, though, is
Well, one of the things, let me maybe clarify a little bit. I'm as everyone here knows, I'm not a golfer. And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys will know the name more than I, the Lynx software. The software they use that's different than our current software we use for scheduling, the whole,
Tea time
we have the
reservation
Chelsea system.
Tea time
now.
reservation system. Let's go.
The tea time reservation system, which collects all the data, they're recommending that we go to a different system that is more acceptable and more recognized outside of the Ocean Pines network. So that would be software as an example that is compatible because it's used apparently for many other courses.
well, I think.
But that's not their software. They license that from another provider. So,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, I think the question is compatibility, and I think it needs to be asked.
yeah, I think
We did ask it.
Dave's point is very well taken. It doesn't make a hill of beans if we have full access and a right to the data if we can't use it. Not at the end, even at the end of 3 years, we have all that data. If we don't have, it may not be, maybe a moot point. I mean, I don't know if it's all that important in the contract.
I don't think it is.
I don't think
I do.
You put a clause in that says formatted in a manner that's acceptable to Ocean Pines.
No. Come on.
Well,
This is a board meeting.
yeah, but, yeah,
I think we need to move on. I think the question, as I had understood it, was raised by Dave perhaps earlier this week, perhaps last week, I don't know. about proprietary software and do we get to keep it and that sort of thing. And I think that's been answered, right?
Yeah,
That-
I don't think we can at this point answer all the nitty-gritty about this and that. But I think what Bob said earlier, they manage 120 golf courses.
You sound like Clinton on the health bill.
It's been
Put it in place and then we'll fix it
answered in
later.
a way that is potentially negative to us. Therefore, a follow-up question about compatibility is required.
Fine.
Assume it's not.
Go ahead, Robert, next one.
I agree with you, Dick.
What will the contract actually cost us? Okay, I wanted to make sure I got this out to everybody. There is a monthly fee, that's what the management contract is, of $5,500 per month. Okay, that's their fee to plug in, have their resources, have access to their ACE training software as an example. That's the management contract fee. There are also other fees, just so there's no, do you have a question, John?
What's the incentive fee? Back to the previous slide. Is there a percentage?
There is an incentive fee, I apologize, I thought that was the next slide, that is.
Oh, if you're gonna cover it, that's fine.
Well, no, you know what, John, this is probably a good spot because it's, I don't have the slide showing how the incentive works. The incentive was developed by the team that did the evaluation. It was copied off of the Heritage Hunt software or contract. And Pete, if you'd like to speak at all to that, you kind of got all the details.
Yes, there was an incentive fee, and essentially it's based on exceeding budgeted performance. So to the extent that Casper exceeds budget, that excess would be part of a determination of an incentive fee. It's a percentage that caps out at 30%. One of the clients of theirs had which Bob referred to a moment ago, had in place a very similar kind of incentive program. We've deviated from that in two respects. Number one, their contract provided a flat 30% of the excess profit over the budgeted amount. And by the way, the budgeted amount is agreeable. Ocean Pines and Billy Casper sit down, review the budget, agree on the budget, and let's say that we agree on the golf and food and beverage budget of $100,000 at the end of the year, and they exceed that by $100,000, then $100,000 becomes the base on which you compute the incentive compensation. What's written into the contract at the moment is not a flat percentage, but a scaled percentage, so that it's 20% of the first $50,000 of excess, 25% of the next $50,000 of excess over budget, and then anything over $100,000 in excess of the budget would be a 30%. However, that is capped, and it is capped at 40% of the base, and the base is $66,000. So can anybody do the math there? About $26,000 is the cap.
The question I have,
Okay, so the maximum bonus we're talking about here is $26,000, which is 40% in round numbers of $66,000, okay? We also were interested conceptually, now remind you, we were talking about food and beverage, and we may still be talking about food and beverage later on. One of the principal objectives we wanted to retain or have in any contract or in any arrangement, any management contract, was to have not incentives be achieved at the expense of long-term, shall we say, performance. In other words, you can drive a profit very easily by whacking costs. You could take an operation that's losing $150,000 and you can make that profitable in pretty short order by just whacking costs. Well, your revenues are going to decline in the meantime. The product you offer is going to decline in the meantime, but your bottom line. So we didn't want to reward bottom line performance at the expense of decisions that were not in the best interest long term. There was another provision in a lot of the contracts we looked at, and other, particularly in golf, whereby the incentive contract was based on a percentage of revenue. And I'll give you an example. in one of the competitors here, the incentive was 10% of revenues that exceeded in golf $1.3 million. So if they came in with $1.4 million in revenue, that was $100,000 over the $1.3 million threshold, that would be subjected to a 10% bonus. $200,000 would be 20, $300,000 would be 30. We didn't like that either, just to reward topside performance. So what we did was to achieve this appraisal system. So as part of the carrying out of the incentive performance, we introduced what we called a qualitative dimension into the evaluation. And here's how it works. That the performance of Casper under the contract will be rated annually. There's a numeric rating that will be performed under a formula. Obviously, there'll be subjectivity to it, but the various categories that were felt to be important will be rated. And two things have to happen. Number one, if that rating is below 60, they get no incentive compensation for that year. Even though they may have exceeded budget by $500,000, if the qualitative assessment results in a score of less than 60, they get 0.
What is the qualitative assessment?
It's 3 pages, okay, of factors that the points assigned. There are points assigned to each of various components.
In the contract?
As an exhibit.
As an exhibit?
Yes, okay.
So that's
Let me finish though.
though.
Let me finish, okay? Secondly, to the extent that the percentage score, the resulting percentage will determine the bonus. So if they score 80%, 80 points out of 100, and you compute the bonus at, I don't know, $40,000 or $30,000, it's 80% of 30.
It can't be 20 over, so it can't be over 26.
That's why I changed it to,
Oh.
yeah, okay, well, 30,000. You know, it seems like a lot, it's complex because the dollars themselves, when you're capping it at 40%, it's $26,000. So it's much,
Let me share something.
but it's qualitative. We wanted an ability to qualitatively evaluate, not just base it on numbers.
Yeah, this is the critical point of this, is that, well, there's 2 points I'd like to make. One is that you want the quality of the product to always stay up. So you don't want a pure financial relationship that allows them to succeed while ruining the quality of the product. 2, this contract that Bob and I have been working on, obviously with the help of Pete, because he was part of the team that did the investigation, a lot of this contract is based on contracts written with other clients of Billy Casper Golf, with different legal firms. We didn't make this up from a blank piece of paper. I mean, this is coming off of other contracts based on very satisfied customers. In fact, the Heritage Hope was a very big help to us in putting together, what we were asking for in the contract. So we didn't just, Ocean Pines didn't fly alone on this. We had other clients of Billy Casper working with us on the side to make sure we got what, we did what we were asked to do, which was negotiate as solid a contract as we could, not just based on what we could make up, but also what others have been happy with. So I just wanted to kind of level set some background there that we're not just paying for dollar performance, we're paying for quality as well. And so, good.
Thank you, guys. Are there any other fees associated with the contract? Yes. There's an annual travel expense fee that's in the contract, not to exceed $8,000 per year. In addition, there is a termination fee should either party terminate the contract for convenience, and we had talked about that one. Any questions?
Yeah.
Bob, I'll just add something new, but it's not a fee. It's out-of-pocket travel expenses, okay? If they're not incurred, they're not incurred. It's actual out-of-pocket expenses. So if we have the regional director of agronomy come in for consultation, and that person comes in and spends the night, and they're based in Virginia, by the way. They don't have to fly in from Chicago or somewhere else. They drive in from Northern Virginia. So to the extent that they're out-of-pocket travel expenses incurred, by corporate resources coming to help administer the Ocean Pines agreement and help us, those actual expenses are reimbursed by us up to a maximum of $8,000 per year. So it's not a fee per se. If they only spend $5,000, then it's $5,000. If they spend $12,000, it's $8,000.
Yeah, we have to budget.
But it's out-of-pocket expenses.
We have to budget 8 though.
Correct.
Yeah, we have.
And fee may
Yeah.
not have been the right term, but
It's
I
not.
want you to see all the costs
Right,
associated with the
right.
contract.
Well,
Exactly.
yeah, my question about that, you know, I can understand the $8,000, particularly during the first year. You'd certainly want to have a cushion for bringing people in and doing what they need to do. I don't understand why it wouldn't go down in succeeding years, though.
Dave, the answer is it almost surely will go down in the following years. But again, it's not a fee, it's not an amount, it's not an allowance, it's actual.
It's a cap.
So to the extent that we don't bring them in at all, it's zero. Now, we'd be foolish not to bring them in and avail ourselves of the resources. That's certainly what we're buying into, and a tremendous benefit under the terms of the contract.
Well, in that case, why don't you look at the wording that would talk to be a budgeted annual travel and expense fee, not to exceed $8,000 a year, such that it's at least negotiable what we put in the budget in the follow-on
It's
years.
exactly
That's how it's written in the
That's
contract.
exactly how it's written in the contract.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
I guess someday I'll
It's a
find out.
cap.
every-
Keep going though, Dave. We're gonna-
It's a cap.
No, these are very solid questions, guys, and there's nothing wrong with it. The 8 is a cap, but every year there is a budget established, and we just want to
Second year
put a
budget could be
ceiling.
5,000.
We just wanted to put a ceiling on it, and
All right.
that's what we did. Okay.
They just did Bob's house.
Yeah. How will the annual budget be developed for the country club under the new contract? BCG will develop an annual plan, not in, for the country club operation will be rolled up into the OPA budget, the entire budget for the board to approve. Okay, it's part of the overall process.
Begs the question, what happens if we don't approve their budget?
And Tom, help me on this, January 15th, what happens, and if I say this incorrectly, well, you guys can jump in, but basically, if we can't come to terms and agree with their budget moving forward, it reverts back to the prior year's budget.
Okay,
Right, exactly, that's covered.
okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Bob, by the way, you said it comes to the board. It actually comes to you, the general manager, incorporated into your overall budget, does it not?
Yeah, right, but final decision
Yeah,
on the
the vote
budget
votes on it.
obviously
Yeah.
comes to
I
you
mean, it
guys.
gets incorporated
Yeah, no,
into the budget. Yeah,
my
okay.
question was, what happens if the board?
No, I understand, but the previous question was,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Good question.
General written membership fees are due. Okay, this question came up about the, any fees or any negotiated contracts or agreements prior to, either with golf members or offerings. Quite frankly, it's null and void at that point, because it's, Casper's taking over. They're going to tell us what the fee structure is, what the membership fee structure is, and those type of things. I'm not sure, what else. I mean, the fees don't, the membership fees are set for May 1st timeframe. They set them, they're going to set them through we would set them through the budget process as we do for any other, aquatics, golf, whatever, we have to approve that. They will then help us build that budget.
The question,
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay?
go ahead.
and this is, by the way, one of the questions that I sent. Did you not get a copy of that, Pete?
He got this because everyone did. So
I got
what's
this,
your-
did I-
What's the question on that?
Dave, I got
Question that
this.
I sent by email? Did it not go
No,
out?
what's your question
What's the
pertaining to this?
We all
All right.
got this.
Yeah, I know you know about that, but having seen that beforehand, they did send out an email
Right.
questioning both of those things. You got it, Tom? Okay,
Yeah.
somebody got it.
Yeah.
The rest of you did too. And no, there was no response. Okay,
What?
if the BCG contract start date occurs before May 1st, it will. Okay, I'm reading this now. Okay, it will start on November 1st. Will BCG honor all OPA commitments regarding memberships, fees, packages, etc., incurred before that time, before May 1st of next year, including coupons, memberships, and so forth? The answer, no. So in other words, our memberships, the things that we've already prepaid for, are no longer valid. And that was precisely what was in my email as a question. And you're saying, that's right, your membership, Dave, that you just paid for, isn't valid anymore.
The intent here, the answer, Dave, which I did get your response, it wasn't worth the response back because I couldn't understand it, okay, quite frankly. Or I would have been happy to send it to you, knowing it was going to be discussed today. They're not going to come in and blow up current memberships. They would come in to build memberships for our May 1st with our budget. Pete, you seem like going.
We've got a real disconnect here. We've
Yeah,
got a
obviously
question
we
that's
do.
being, there's a real, let me try and help,
Yep,
okay?
bridge the gap.
What Dave, I think, was trying to answer, I think, as I understand Dave's question, the answer is yes. Dave, not no.
Is a
okay?
membership.
I think what Dave is saying is he's got a current membership that doesn't expire until April 30th, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, is your question about whether there'll be any impact on that membership or next year's membership?
Read the question. It says before May 1st. That is May 1st of 2011, isn't it?
Yeah?
All right.
It's not what.
What's the answer to my question?
The answer to the question is yes. The answer to that, what's up
Is it
there,
this
is
year's,
no.
is it this year's or contracts and fees
That's
or
what
next
it's-
year's?
Pete, and up there, the answer answers that
Because
question
of-
is no. What it should say is, the answer is B, C, and G will honor all current commitments
Absolutely.
through April 30th.
Absolutely.
After April 30th, blah, 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 blah.
New fees will be
I
in place
think
for next
that's
year.
what you're, that's what we're looking for,
Exactly.
but that isn't what it
That's fine.
says.
That's fine.
New fees
Well,
will be in
it's-
place,
Yeah.
yet to be determined.
Maybe I misunderstood the question.
That was not
Yes, you did.
clear on that.
Maybe I misunderstood the question.
The
But I think it-
question is
I
pretty
misunderstood
clear.
it, so let's just be very
Yeah,
clear. Let's be very clear.
The current memberships.
Last,
No,
Till the-
current. The end.
Those currently in
April
effect.
30th And April 30th
Right,
will be honored.
yes.
of course.
Yes.
Any after that point.
Correct.
May 1st, 2011 on will be subject to BCG's.
Okay, so they can't do a thing about all of our current commitments right now in place are going to be honored. The answer to
Absolutely.
that is
Absolutely.
yes.
As an
Okay.
example, if
Frankly,
somebody
I
bought a
thought this
car-
answer was amazing because I thought,
That's
I
fine.
wrote the question
I know.
and I thought it was a
So I
no-brainer.
think we're okay.
We're fine.
We're fine.
Okay.
Just revise your.
All current obligations will be honored.
It's-
Boom.
You see how easy all this is, folks? You see how easy? No, now that I understand the question a little better, absolutely. I'm an owner of one of those prepaid card things that my wife gave me for my birthday, and they will honor that for
Yes.
me to play around the golf at the golf course, regardless.
Do they
Yeah, that probably has
expire?
an expiration date.
Before
It has an
April 30th.
expiration date.
Well,
on it. It's
whatever,
a point.
yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is, it is.
Before April 30th.
Well,
Well, wait a minute.
Bob, you were thinking about next year's fees.
Next year.
Correct. And I asked two people before I answered, so it wasn't
Do
just.
have,
We okay?
do have a question.
Yes,
Not being, when you buy a string of tickets or however you do it,
right.
is there an expiration date on those?
Yes.
Yes, there is on the cards.
Yes.
Okay,
Use it by
so-
a certain day, and they will honor that.
Okay, can that go over into the following fiscal year?
You mean, does the expiration date mean anything?
Well, no, that's not my question. If I want a series of tickets in August, okay? And I decide I'm not gonna use them all until next August,
Right.
is B, C, and G gonna honor those? I mean, is there an expiration date on there that says they gotta be used by the 30th of April?
Let me put it this way. Any existing commitment on the part
Regardless.
of Ocean Pines Golf, be it a membership which runs out at the end of April, or a card for golf, all of that will be honored, under the same terms that exist today.
Do they all have expiration dates?
My
That's the
card
policy.
does.
That's the policy.
Membership has
I understand membership, I'm
Yeah.
talking about buying a series of
A
tickets.
coupon.
You're talking about coupons, and the answer is they always have
they
expiration.
always have that.
And you know that when you buy them.
Okay, do they all expire by the 30th
No.
of April?
No,
No,
no.
no.
Then I think
2
you
years
have
out,
to.
some of them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
I think that's
Years
the
out.
point that Dave
Well,
is
that's one
talking
of them.
about. You've got to make sure
one
that
of it.
BCG will in fact honor those through the expiration date.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The answer is yes, we've got that covered.
Well,
Yeah.
You're asking us to take it upon faith.
There's nothing wrong with the question.
You're going to see the contract once it's reviewed by legal. I mean, there's nothing hidden here.
Okay.
By the way, if you have a coupon that entitles you to a free lunch at Turn Grill and expires 5 years from now, they'll honor that too.
Well, they won't be in business.
Who has those? Tuna fish salad sandwiches.
We'll be seeing.
Made today, and I'll wait for you to pick it up.
Be required to operate within the current OPA.
And you get your choice of 4 kinds of lettuce.
All right.
Will they be required to operate within the budget? No, that's why they've given us a pro forma. The goal, they're going to work, no,
Will they be required to operate within the budget?
from now forward, from November. You can answer if you want. Go ahead.
No. I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I was kidding.
We gotta
They've
get
given
going.
us a pro forma,
Yeah.
and that's how they intend to operate under those pro forma conditions, not to.
When will we see that pro
That's
forma?
not, no.
All right,
No,
jump
no,
in.
no, no.
I'm sorry.
All right, no, that's
And by the way, that was one of the questions that I answered and gave
Dave,
a
thank
response
you.
to.
I got you.
The pro forma, Bob,
Oh, I've got
It
that.
was sent out.
Pro
Correct.
forma was sent out to everybody.
Yeah, I got the pro forma.
Okay, so you did.
But what I
get it,
didn't
right.
see is a pro forma for the next 6 months.
there is no pro forma for the next 6
Good.
months.
That's what my point precisely.
Yeah.
If there's no pro forma for the next 6 months,
It's our budget. Dave,
I can tell you this.
It's our budget.
Okay, no, well, hang on, let me
Our
make sure
budget.
we're clear.
Our budget.
When you send 1,000 questions and they're worded difficultly, if I have to ask 2 people to help me answer your questions, I'm not getting the clear picture of what your questions are. And I'm sorry if you're not getting the answers you're looking for. I'm trying to do the best to include, if I don't understand, I'm asking other board members, what's he saying here? I didn't get it. What am I missing? And I'm trying to answer the best of that. But that's why we have 2 guys that are also part of that contract trying to help us answer these questions.
okay, you should get all the help you need.
And I will.
Before the presentation would be better, but that's okay.
Yeah, you know
I
what?
understand. Let me just
Let's try.
understand.
Come on,
What is-
let's not stop playing games here. Look, we got
what is-
legitimate
I'm not playing
questions.
any games.
Dave,
I have
Dave.
questions.
They're
I've
legitimate
asked the
questions, they're legitimate
and I
answers
got
in
no
most
answers.
cases. Okay. With respect to this question, I think the answer is very simply, we're in the middle of a budget fiscal year.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue.
Yeah.
Okay. What I think was Bob was trying to, and he put it in his projections here, we're going to have additional costs by virtue of entering into the arrangement, and that's not budgeted. And I think, Bob,
Right.
perhaps you were trying to decipher what he was trying to get at.
Okay.
The rest of the 6 months, Dave, we have a budget in place. That's on us. What they will do under the terms of the contract is provide to us, within 30 days of signing the contract, a budget for the next fiscal year. This year's essentially done for golf.
Okay,
There's no need to be tweaking any budgets for the remainder of this fiscal year.
I think what we see here is,
Right.
if we sign that contract tomorrow, we're gonna have a $5,500 monthly increase that's gonna go on there.
And?
We're gonna have approximately a $35,000, whatever it costs for the
Right.
supervisor.
Exactly.
Those are the 2 additional expenses that I see off the top of my head that would be, otherwise, we would be operating within our pro forma.
Right.
Our budget.
Our budget.
That's why the answer
Yeah, our
is no.
budget.
Okay.
That's clearly why the answer is no.
Yeah.
And that's why I put the increase
All right.
to 119,000.
Where is
It's exactly what he did in his presentation.
No,
at the
I
last
understand
board
that.
meeting
You
and
look at the
again today.
question, you look
Wait
at
a
the
second.
question.
Where, I mean, we don't have a pro forma for
Mr.
this
Stevens.
next 6 months. Mr.
There's not going to be a
Thompson
pro
will-
forma for the next 6 months.
Okay, but on the other hand, where does the $35,000 come from?
We're $80,000 ahead of budget, by the way, through the end of last month, which you well know.
That has nothing to do with the question. The question is, I understand 5,500. I understand some portion of the travel expenses. Okay, where is the $35,000 extra coming from on top of that?
Referring to the hiring of the person? Is that what you're talking about, the 35,000?
What person?
What 35,000, Dave? I don't know where that number's
Okay,
coming.
I
just-
picked
I
that
just-
figure out because
I
I said
just
you
heard
gotta
it a second
hire,
ago.
you gotta hire a
Half a
golf
70.
supervisor, right? They're gonna
Yeah,
hire,
we have 100,
that's an
yeah.
increased cost that is not currently budgeted.
That's untrue. We have a director of golf already budgeted in it.
Wait a minute. What I'm talking.
You were correct.
We talked about hiring a general manager / golf pro,
That-
whatever.
that's correct.
That's part of the
I'm not a
contract.
golfer.
That's part of the
Okay,
contract.
so excuse my lack of proper terms. There's a cost associated with that.
Correct.
Which could be 30, whatever it is for the next 6 months. That is not currently in our budget.
That's
That's
correct.
one of the costs that you're talking about.
Correct.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
I'm assuming, I think what Dave's getting at here, I'm assuming that we hire this golf professional, it will be terminating another.
No,
No.
don't assume that.
No. And we are not hiring a golf professional.
Well, okay, if Casper
By
hires.
virtue of entering into the management
Right.
agreement with Billy Casper Golf, coming with that is a general manager, call it whatever you wish, we're calling it now director of golf, am I correct?
That's correct.
That person is totally in their employee, is currently probably an employee of theirs at some other client of theirs. That person will be identified as the person to come to Ocean Pines, to be full-time, to be the person who interfaces with Bob Thompson, who executes on behalf of the Billy Casper. That person, as soon as we sign that contract, we commit ourselves to them hiring that person and we paying for that person.
Understand.
Correct.
But, who is director of golf right now?
We have a,
Who is director of golf?
Harlan is the director of golf
Well-
and the golf course superintendent.
All right, now.
Golf
well,
course superintendent.
Wouldn't it be proper, or when we think they would not have two directors of golf?
They will not have two directors of
They will
golf.
not have that.
Right.
That's their decision.
So I understand that, but I'm just taking an assumption here. I'm assuming they're not going to have two directors of golf. Therefore, some salary of that former director of golf will be utilized to pay the new director of golf.
I'm not seeing how you,
Well, exactly. We have a budget right now which includes personnel costs. Okay, next year we'll have a different budget that roughly will correspond to their pro formers, and we'll have those people in it. There won't be an additional fee on top of that pro forma next year. It will be embedded in the pro forma. I'm saying right now, why in the world would we have to hire another person on top of it? Why do you not ask Billy Casper, here's our budget, okay? Give us an alternate budget for the next 6 months, okay? And tell us where you have to exceed our current budget. And if they're saying we got to put a director or somebody, another $35,000 of personnel on top of it, so be it. But let me see that pro forma. Let me see it for the next 6 months.
It's two line items, Dave. It's the management fee and it's the compensation of the person that needs to be brought in to manage.
It's not
It's not complicated. It's two things. He's already done it.
Dear gentlemen.
He's done it several
You've done it.
times.
Dear gentlemen, let's not forget the big picture here. The big picture here is this is the third or fourth meeting that we've been discussing the same thing. It's like peace negotiation while the killing is going on. The killing is a $200,000 a year loss, running it ourselves with board interference. We have an opportunity now to immediately change that, to make the people that play golf a little more comfortable with what the heck is going on, and we can move on with things that are far more important than this. I think we need to make some decisions very soon.
Let me just add to your big picture.
Amen.
It's not about making the people playing golf happier. It's about having lots more people playing golf and providing a lot more revenue at Ocean Pines. That is the essence of why we're doing this.
Yes,
It's
yes.
not about cost cutting. It's about building revenue and turning a loss over time into a profit. And you don't do that by cost cutting. You do it by enhancing the revenue, getting more play, reaching outside the community, marketing, all the things that Billy Casper Golf can do. That's the big picture, and we need to move on with it.
well, I think you got to be very careful here, folks. Okay, I hear what you're saying, Ray, and you're right. We're going to have to make a decision at some point in time. But you know what?
No.
Now is the time that you talk about the contract and its terms and conditions. After you sign that contract, it's no longer the opportunity to change things without additional expenses.
Well, we
So
haven't
the
seen the
questions-
contract yet.
Well, but the point is, we have the points, he's asking good questions, we can go on and answer these questions, and then we can still make a decision at the end of this game whether or not we want to go forward.
When's the end of the game?
Maybe in an
That's the
hour.
key. We gotta have.
I hope soon, today.
Well,
So you want us to rewrite our own budget process before we can go on with this
No,
contract?
I just said his questions are good.
Enough.
I have no problems with his
I don't
questions.
think we should rewrite our budget process.
The budget's fine.
Let's understand something. Our objective this morning is to respond to the directive of the board, which was to go negotiate a contract. We have done that. We are reporting that issue. These are valid questions that have been asked. The question becomes, at some point, when do you run out of questions? The answer to that is never. at some point you move.
That's right.
And you
Yep.
realize that you've done your homework the best you can. The assumption that you can have a decision in mid-year budget that you budgeted for 6 months ago when you didn't even know you were going to do it is certainly not an option. That doesn't exist. Obviously, we're looking for the expertise of Casper to come in to drive more rounds of golf into this clubhouse so that we don't lose as much money as we used to lose. As you said, the peace conference and the people are dying.
Yeah, well, November 1st is only a couple days away.
Let's move on.
Yes.
Okay, next question, what impact does BCG have on the ongoing drainage project? Which was a good question. Ocean Pines Association does, will continue with that project. It's a separate project. We have discussed it with BCG. That we'll just adjust accordingly. I mean, they know it's an ongoing project with us. It's not something that's under their control. It's not something they assume responsibility for. That is a drainage project for the greater good of the community.
Who's going to manage that project?
We manage it now.
Yeah, I know. We have a specific person that's managing that contract.
It should be the director.
And there's considered.
Harlan manages it now.
Harlan currently manages it. Yes. Harlan currently manages it.
Okay, now you're shaking your head. and
Harlan
saying-
manages it.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. Okay, you said it should be the director of golf.
I think it should.
The
Okay.
drainage project, just make sure we're all clear, is not a golf, it's not for the greater good of the golf. Okay, it's for the greater good of the overall community.
You know that.
Okay? So therefore, the ultimate responsibility falls on my desk to make sure it's being handled appropriately. I've discussed it with Billy Casper Golf. They're aware of the project. We will coordinate our efforts so we don't
Okay.
disrupt golf, but we get the project completed.
Just so we understand it, right now, we have a certain amount of synergy in that our director of golf manages, and course superintendent is both the director of golf, course superintendent, and manages the drainage project. Okay? When Billy Casper comes in, they will have somebody who will be a director of golf / head professional who will also, and hire some course superintendent. And that's all their responsibility. We will still have to fill in a role of managing that drainage project with somebody else at some cost.
And if Harlan resigned this afternoon, we would have to solve that problem too.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm sorry, you said but with somebody else. Why did you add the words with somebody else? Acknowledge that we have a director, we have a general manager.
No, well, or
We have a
with
director
somebody
of golf,
else.
we have a
with
golf,
some-
and then
with
you
some-
said we're gonna have.
Let me answer the question. With somebody other than the Billy Casper employee.
Why?
Because Billy
Why on earth would you need to do that?
Because we just said Billy Casper is not responsible for the drainage question. We're responsible for it.
That's why
We have,
No,
Yeah.
Bob Thompson will be
that's under the.
overseeing
that's not
Okay,
correct.
It's a separate, the
what
drainage
it
project
says.
is not a golf project. It impacts the golf course, but more importantly, it impacts the holistic Ocean Pines Association and upwards of 1,400 homes.
Understand.
So that's why the project's in play. That is our responsibility, that is my responsibility.
Absolutely.
I will
That's
work
right.
with Billy
Absolutely.
Casper Golf. Understand,
You have
everyone
to.
needs to know that Harlan is still a player. Billy Casper Golf comes in, they interview all of our team, and they try to retain those people. So Harlan very well could be
Absolutely.
and we're hoping remains a critical player with our association.
So you're looking at the possibility that Harlan, as a Billy Casper employee,
Absolutely. You said that.
could be tapped by us, even though it's not their responsibility, to manage the drainage problem at the same time?
It would be a coordinated effort.
His work was primary with the golf course. The drainage effort is not only with the golf course, it's with Beecham Road, it's with the county and everything, and that's got to go through Bob.
But he was managing it.
Yeah.
He was overseeing
He
the
was
project by the
overseeing
outside
it.
contractor
Yeah.
doing it. Now, don't forget, this drainage project is being done by a third party, an outside,
Right.
is it
It's
Alpine?
contracted, that's right.
Correct.
Yeah, there's an outside, is Alpine, is that the right term?
Aspen was.
Aspen, I beg your pardon,
Yeah.
trees, Alpine's over
We're
there.
gonna have
Aspen
Bob
Contracting.
do it.
So that's going to be overseen by someone within Ocean Pines. It's up to him
That's right.
to figure out who that person is.
Exactly.
Contractual
And it probably will end up being the same person who's been doing it the last several years.
Move on.
Okay, just some advantages. Someone asked last night, well, what are the critical advantages that you see? Me personally, and I added them as the last part of the slide. Extensive golf course management. They manage 120 golf courses, okay? That gives them far more experience, okay, than we currently have. In addition, they have in the Mid-Atlantic region, within a 4-hour drive, and the numbers were higher. I am a little more conservative, but between 250 and 300,000 current golfers within the Billy Casper golf program with their courses in the Mid-Atlantic. And then the economies of scale when you're talking about purchasing power for equipment, for fertilizer, for just about everything impacted by golf. You know, when they're buying for 120 courses. Now, we are a participant of a smaller group for buying power, but it is much smaller than 120 courses. So we believe, or I believe, these are three critical components moving forward, compiled with our history of not doing such a great job in this particular area, combined with the fact that we're scheduled to lose upwards of 200,000, all combined at least tells me this is a good strategy for us. You all were provided in email form, and for those that may not have opened it, I went ahead and printed extra copies to bring here today. The pro forma, which I believe you guys, or I know I sent it to you.
You did. You did.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Not a technical process.
Okay. Just wanted to point out some differences. This is the latest, the $304,000 loss that I refer back to. I believe that there's going to be some greater advantage next year. And if you look at actuals for BCG on the pro forma, BCG first year, they're not telling us they can turn around per their projections a $200,000 loss, but what they believe that they can generate enough rounds and generate, and you'll see on the bottom of this, new outing rounds, new public rounds. Between the combination of new rounds and more efficient management of the golf course and more efficient purchasing power, they felt they can reduce our loss in year one from the current 200,000 track that we've been on to approximately 54,000. And you can see that in BCG year one.
Just, you know, to be 100% clear, the first column refers to the 2009, 2010 actuals.
Actuals that we provided, yes.
Okay, and then we're skipping a year and we're going to the 2011, 2012 actuals, or I'm sorry, projections. That's what year one refers to 2011, 2012.
Yes.
Okay, and the hole in the middle is 2010, 2011. Okay.
First year starts next.
I think that's pretty obvious, but. All right.
You know what, that's what I have there, gentlemen. It's been shared with you. If anybody has any questions, it's probably the shorter way to go.
And if they're wrong by half, then we're still ahead by $100,000.
That concludes my portion.
Nice job, Bob.
Thanks, Jim. And we'll get just so you all know, the contract, the reason you haven't gotten the contract over the last week or so, our contract review committee has looked at it, and that's something I've said in the last couple months, that we will continue to use that. We've bounced it through our attorney's office several times now, and back with BCG several times. So we're really closing the gap to get the final few nuances, and we're hoping to have that cleaned up today. I mean, we're on a phone call 2 nights ago until almost 10:30 at night, trying to negotiate some final terms and some final information. So that's the only reason you guys haven't gotten it. It's the pieces are still coming together.
So, may I ask the president a question? Are we here to approve outsourcing the golf without seeing the final contract, or are we going to have to meet again to make a decision?
Yeah.
It is my intent that we were asked to negotiate the contract As I said earlier in the meeting, the last thing left to do is simply settle the insurance piece. So it was my intent that that a motion would be made possibly for us to, empowering me to finish that issue and sign the contract. We presented the issues in the contract, answered all the questions that we've gotten in. That in essence is the term sheet for the deal. The pro forma is here, so it was my intent that you as the board would authorize me to finish that insurance issue and execute the contract. That was my intent, not to have another meeting for that. That was my intent, John.
And I, for one, think that's a reasonable request of us.
And I, for one, think it's totally unreasonable.
I'm sure.
Voting on a contract or of this magnitude without seeing it, I think is irresponsible. I won't vote for it. I am, by the way, generally in favor of outsourcing golf. I don't want to see it done.
Okay.
I'm frankly amazed that we haven't seen it or don't have a contract and haven't had a contract in front of us. I didn't think any of the issues were all that difficult to arrive at. But yeah, maybe it takes time. I don't know what
Well,
time
when
it
you're
took.
going-
I wasn't part of the
The
process.
answer to the question is, when you're
But-
going through a contract line by line by line, and the and the these and the thises, and all of that has to be cleaned up and straightened up, that's not a short process. That's where we are. It was our job to negotiate. Bob has brought back what the deal is we got that's in the contract. Now, if there's not a belief that's within the contract is what we presented, that's another issue. But we presented what's in the contract, so it's a matter of moving forward. At some point, we have to take action and move. It's up to the board what they want to do at this point.
And Tom, I think what you and Bob have done is to convey to the board all of the key terms, not just that you sat in the back room and decided were the key terms, but rather responding to a variety of questions and thoughts, and is this included in the contract? What's that provision? I'll remind you that on September the 15th, the outsourcing task force presented to the board prior to the September 22nd meeting a binder, and that included included a two-page summary of key provisions. That was the starting point. Now, we are at the 29th of October point, so that was quite some time ago. In any event, there's been a series of things over time that have involved a variety of different people, the contract review committee, and I happen to think the contract review process is a very good one that was put into place last year. The legal counsel review, and I, as one board member, I remember getting a contract recommended to us that hadn't been through that review, or actually being copied on the emails, and I said, I want to, as a board member, I don't want to see this thing until it's been through the various processes that we've established. It makes no sense to me as a board member to get it before it goes to the contract review committee. It makes no sense for me as a board member before it goes through legal review. I want to see it after it's been through those processes. That has now just been done, but in the interim, I think you've tried to respond, both Bob and Tom, to all of the questions, and there have been many, as I've seen the various emails coming in, asking about this, asking about that. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, Dave, in response to your comment about it being irresponsible, what else would we possibly want to know other than the fine print and crossing this and that legal provision and so forth? So,
What we would like to have, Pete, is a contract to look at, to read, prior to saying, I'm going ahead with that. That's what I
realize that's exactly what you want.
That is exactly what I want. And I don't see any reason why I shouldn't have had it by now, and I don't see any reason why we have to push
So you wanted it
into
before
this.
the process of the review by the contract review committee?
You know what? If the process took that long, I could have had it 2 days ago. If the process took that long, then we postpone it for another week. I don't care. It doesn't make any difference. It's as long as we have something in front of us to review before we vote on it.
Everybody around this table probably has a different view of exactly what they want to see and where we are in the process. I have a little bit of advantage here because I have more knowledge, okay? But I'm perfectly comfortable with authorizing our general manager and our president to negotiate the final.
you're perfectly-
They've already outlined to us all of the various provisions.
Pete, you're perfectly comfortable because you were part of the process.
said that,
from
Dave.
beginning to end. No kidding, you'd be more comfortable with it. But what about the people?
But I also
who-
trust our president and
hold
our
on.
general manager.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily a matter of trust.
Okay.
Are you telling me that Tom or our new general manager can't make mistakes? Are you telling me that our past general managers couldn't? Even with legal advice?
In fact, I remember a fellow board member, Rick Hanlon, saying a couple of meetings ago, you used the trust word, as I recall it.
Well, you see,
Check the tape.
I feel, yes, I feel like this. We need to, we've designated Tom Terry as the president. We voted on Ryan Burbett. I'm glad they did. Bob Thompson, general manager. We need to give those people authority.
And that didn't abrogate our responsibility as board members.
I'm not,
It did.
my responsibility is to come here, listen, and vote for the Good of Ocean Pines. And the Good of Ocean Pines, it's gotta be done. We have to do something.
I think one of the challenges is, has it gone through the contract review board?
Yes,
Has it gone through legal?
yes,
So all the terms and conditions have been taken care of.
except for the one insurance certificate that we
Okay.
have to settle.
And just to clarify, I should have back from Mr. Moore the final.
Okay.
I mean, it's not, we haven't received it back from him.
But listening to what Pete said a few moments ago, way back when he had a contract, he wanted to see the contract after it was seen by the contract review board, after it was seen by the legal. I think Dave's point, from where he's sitting, is saying, I have not seen that final contract from that point in time. That's not an unreasonable offer.
Okay.
On the other hand, we just went through an hour and a half of dissertation and questions on these things, where we brought up some questions that may or may not impact upon what was written in the contract. It may change a few things that you have to go back to Billy Casper and company. Don't know. Otherwise, what we did this morning was just a waste of time, and I agree with what Rick was saying. We just ought to call the vote and see whether or not we want to do it. But I think Dave has a right, as a board member, to say, hey, I represent members of the Pines. If I'm going to vote on this, I don't want someone a year later coming back saying, well, I didn't see the final contract. Whether I read it or not is neither here nor there. I should have a choice to read it. And I think, if I'm not putting words into your mouth, Dave, I think that's what you were asking. I don't think that's an unreasonable request.
It's precisely what I'm asking.
I don't think we need any more discussions on the contract, even after we get it. We could.
So when and how do we?
Because you can imagine, I have a question on page 12, I think that ought to be this instead of that, subparagraph 62,
As I said before, having spent a lifetime in this world, it's a lot easier to take all these questions now and kind of resolve them until before you sign the contract, because after then you're in a total different, and if it took us an extra week, so be it.
I understand your caution very well, actually. But I think in the future, when we authorize somebody to negotiate, we ought to authorize them to bring us a draft and not negotiate a contract. Because they have done the negotiation. They've done it thoroughly, and they've had another company outside involved with the whole thing. So
I understand that.
so now we're asking,
Another
But
company?
this is the
so
first.
now we're asking to
But
give us
this-
a chance to change that.
No, but this is not unusual, even when we have other contracts placed in front of us. They're just not as detailed. We've asked questions on why are we buying a truck? It's just a simple little equation. Well, the other one's old and dead. Okay, fine. So we're going to replace it. This is no different. It's just a little bit more complicated, and it's a much longer. It's a service contract. That's all I'm saying. I'm not against it.
I call the question.
Ray, you had your hand up?
Yes. We can speculate and what if ourselves into total immobility again. And I would like to avoid that. So I would like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion that we agree to allow you, pending this information on the insurance, to authorize the outsourcing to Billy Casper Golf.
For the golf course.
And executing a contract,
And execute the contract and do so, yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Now do we have discussion?
Yep.
Yes, we do.
I did.
Go ahead, Dave.
Other than my basic objection of voting for something that I haven't seen, I'd also like to know whether or not this action includes a approval of a out-of-budget expenditure for the remainder of this fiscal year. If so, and of course it will, exactly how much is that out-of-budget expenditure and what is it for? And thirdly, how are we going to pay for the out-of-budget expenditure?
So that's a question?
Well, I think
I'm asking whether or not the motion includes
we're in
that.
discussion.
Yeah, that's a question.
That's a question.
Yeah, if it's a suggestion for an addition to the motion that we come back with those answers, but still have the authority to sign the contract. Yeah.
I have no objection to that.
I didn't hear that as an amendment to the motion. I heard that as a question as part of the discussion.
I want to know whether the motion includes that.
You want to win an
It does
amendment,
not.
Dave?
Well, as of right now, it
It
does
does not.
Doesn't.
It does not. But it's a legitimate question, and it's already been answered several times.
Yeah.
Bob, you want to try it again?
No, thank you. I'll let you guys deliberate.
I mean, part of the question Dave said was, it is obvious what the answer is, and it is obvious what the answer is. Yes, there are P&L implications,
There are.
budget implications
Part of
for
the
6
answer
months of
is-
this year. And those are a $33,000 fee,
$120,000.
presumably half of $8,000 capped on out-of-pocket expenses. That's what, $37,000?
Yes.
And half of the estimated, because it's not a contractual amount, half of the estimated additional cost for the quote director of golf / Billy Casper management, which you've ballparked at approximately 75 plus benefits.
Yes,
And I believe I heard you say about 10,000 for half of your benefits.
yes.
So it's 37.5 plus 10,
Right,
so it's 47.5.
plus 80.
Okay. I would
Okay,
like to
that's
okay.
the impact on this year's
Okay,
budget.
If that is the
That's
case,
the impact
rather
on this
than
year's budget.
give the president carte blanche, why don't we put a figure on it? I amend your motion to exceed, not to exceed out-of-budget expenses of $75,000.
Yeah.
Can't happen.
Huh?
Can't happen.
Why not?
It's not enough.
I thought you said for 1 year?
Oh, I beg your pardon.
For 6 months?
I beg your pardon.
For 6 months.
For 6
For
months?
6 months,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
75,000?
Yeah, not to exceed.
And let me suggest this.
I'm just trying to figure, move this forward.
All right, we're in discussion here. One of the suggestions, and I am not going to be insensitive to the suggestion that board members get to see the contract before I sign it. Ray, what I would ask for is the authority to sign the contract with my commitment that that contract will be signed, will be shared with every board member, and I have an opportunity to let them go through that contract and talk to me about issues they may have seen that I can clean up, but that I have the authority to sign that contract and move forward. But I will consult with the board members once they've had a chance to read the contract. If they find something that needs to be fixed, I want the authority to be able to fix it, but I also don't want to have to call another 2.5, 3-hour meeting to vote this thing in. So I will commit as the president to get a full copy of the contract to every board member. I will give opportunity for them to review. I will sit down with every one of them if they want to, individually, to get their input, because obviously if they found something that needs to be fixed, I don't want to sign something that's wrong. But at the same time, I have the authority to move forward and get Casper Golf moving, and I can do that within the next week.
You have all that, fellas?
That doesn't change his.
Yes, I
That doesn't change the motion, but I think, did you offer an amendment to the
I
motion?
offered an amendment.
Because that is appropriate, I believe,
Yeah.
to include a.
Not
Not to exceed
and not to
75.
exceed out-of-budget
I
expenses.
accept that.
But I would
75
also,
won't do it.
That's half now, that's.
No. Bob and I just did together.
Okay.
What's the
Bob and
number?
I just
What's
did
the
together.
number? Then what's the number?
90,000.
90,000 cap.
I don't have a problem. I just need a number to move
Let me
on.
just give you the numbers.
I would go with 100K.
Go ahead, let's
Not
hear
to
it.
exceed
I'd like to-
$100,000. and move on.
No, I do have a problem with 90,000. I have a problem with 75, but I'd like to hear what Pete has to say about what they what
And
we're
these are
paying for.
not to exceed numbers. It doesn't mean they're going to be the achieved numbers.
No, I think, well, Pete sounds positive. Just, I'm gonna listen, tell me what they are, I'll write it
All
down.
right, and by the way, these are the very same numbers Bob used
Okay.
at our last board meeting, okay?
Yeah.
Numbers, Pete.
So here we go. I'm gonna give you the annual cost, and you can divide by 2. $75,000 is the midpoint between a 65 and 85 estimated range for the additional person. Fringe benefits of benefit package of approximately $20,000 per year.
Okay,
So
take that
that's,
in
we're up
consideration.
to $95,000, right?
Yeah.
We add in a fee, annual fee now, and we're gonna split this in half when we get finished, $66,000, right? And then we have travel expenses of about 8, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
Four.
no, he's doing it on a yearly basis. Go ahead, you're right.
And you'll split it in half. You know how to do a half.
I have totaled that up to be $169,000. Everybody agree? 75 plus 20 plus 66 plus 8,
That's fine.
all right? Divide that by 2, and you get approximately $85,000, correct? Bob reminded me that 75,000 starting point is a midpoint. We may have to go a little higher. We may have to go 10 grand higher. Thus, we make the 85 90 for purposes of being safe.
I don't have a problem. The thing is, if you're gonna do
Right,
it,
but I'm responding to your specific question. That's why I said it's not enough,
yeah, that's fine.
okay?
I amend it.
Okay.
You agree?
Yes.
So you will amend your motion?
Yes.
But I would like to make a point. I understand that you want the authority. However, any board member, just for clarification purposes, has a right to call a special meeting.
Absolutely
I'm sorry,
correct.
same thing.
So that needs to be understood.
That's absolutely correct.
That just because you have that authority, any
That's right.
board member with another approval can call a special meeting
Absolutely.
before you sign the contract.
That's in the
Just-
rules,
okay.
absolutely.
Just want.
John, I thought it the same thing. So if Dave Stevens looks at the contract, it doesn't like paragraph 47 on page 62,
Or anyone.
he
None
can
of the
call a special
questions
meeting.
that all of the questions, by the way, virtually all of the questions that have been answered or asked have been my questions. And none of them were unreasonable, and none of them were down in the noise.
And Dave, they
And-
were all shared with us,
And-
including the answers.
And, yes,
Well done.
but,
There's a sense of,
so don't, look and see that I'm gonna try and find some, little minutia in a contract. On the other hand, I am seriously bothered by spending $93,000 or over budget, and increasing our budget this year. I have seen nothing in the original proposals for golf only from Billy Casper that indicated those expenses were required. Now they are, okay, and now we do have to have their person in for this year. But on the other hand, for the following years, you don't add that on the top, do you? I mean, they're included in the pro formas.
all of their expenses.
All the expenses are included in the pro formas, The pro formas didn't change from June through now, it's substantially.
Let me, for the benefit of clearing the record, one final time. This is not a new condition, the addition of a Billy Casper manager. That has always been there. What our group did when we negotiated this, we wanted to compare apples to apples. And so our instructions to Billy Casper Golf, as they were to Kemper Sports, was to do not include in your pro forma information 2 things, gentlemen. We said, do not include the fee. We know what you proposed. We don't even want to deal with that yet. We want to put that on the side. We also said, do not include in the personnel costs of either food and beverage or golf, the salary that we understand we have to pay of the general manager, put that on the side as well. So when you do your pro formas, we said, do not include those items in the pro formas. We know what they approximately are. We want to then be able to marry up that over here, sitting on the side, with what you can do otherwise in your pro forma projections.
Okay.
That is how we did it, Dave. I could have said to them from the very outset, oh, by the way, please include in golf and in food and beverage the allocated portion of your general manager cost. Could have chosen to do that. Did not. I wish now that I had, because perhaps we wouldn't be having this debate about whether or not it was ever in the equation. It's always been in the equation. Done.
I have a comment before you call the vote.
That's
I
fine.
thought you might disagree.
Okay. John?
We just spent a lot of time talking about golf. However, I am personally against this contract, not because it's for golf. It's because I do not believe we are leveraging our facilities. We would be much better off combining this with our food and beverage operation for an additional $20-some-odd thousand a year. And therefore, we get twice the bang for the buck. For that reason, I am not in favor of voting for this. I just want that up front, and I'll end it at that.
That's fair.
And that's been
fair.
understood too at this point.
Right.
I would like if Phyllis would read again, if you would,
Sure.
to make sure it's correct, and then I'd like to call the question.
It's not your job.
No.
Not up to you.
Well,
Just because you're a former policeman doesn't mean you can. Don't think I don't know that motorcycle.
Excuse me.
Expense of $90,000. The authority to sign the contract will be shared with all board members, and he will conduct, if anyone has any questions, they may call Tom, he will give them the answer, he will find out before it's signed. But he wants the authority to sign it sometime next week.
No, we need the motion.
no, we need.
That's not the motion.
What's the actual motion?
Restate the motion.
Do you have it, Les?
Do you have?
I got
Mr.
it
Secretary?
in scribbled style, the way it came out. It moves to
Well,
allow
let's do
the
it.
president to finalize the Billy Casper golf contract. That was amended then to not to exceed out of budget cap of $90,000 by John. Does an amendment need to be seconded and voted on?
Yes. The amendment
Yes,
has
it
to
does.
be-
You know,
It was not.
No, and that doesn't even speak to the fiscal year. I mean, that just throws out an
He
idea.
accepted. He accepted.
I understand, but it's not clear that it's related to this fiscal year.
Yeah, right, it has to be.
It has to be clear.
Clear that it's on this
Okay.
fiscal year.
Can we try this again?
Okay.
Are we ever going to do anything with that amendment?
I thought we accepted it.
Ray
Can he?
accepted it.
Yeah, I accepted
Right.
it.
Ray, would you like to,
He can do it.
I would suggest that Ray restate the
restate it,
motion and we can write it
including
down
John Thomas? That's
appropriately.
All right, let's try to get this in some.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors authorize and direct the President to enter into a contract with Billy Casper Golf to manage the golf operations and the co-located food and beverage facilities within the country club, period. Such contract, entering into this contract recognizes that within this fiscal year ending April 30th, 2011, there will be unbudgeted expenses which are authorized to the extent, up to the extent of $90,000 within this fiscal year. Period. Anything else?
At no time did I recognize the sound of my voice.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get this done, Ray. I'm just trying to get it done, okay?
I tried.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Les.
Be it resolved that
Hey,
the,
Charlie, you know, just,
you want me to do it again?
I got about 2/3
All
of
right,
it.
be it resolved that the Board of Directors authorize the President to enter into a contract with Billy Casper Golf
Right.
to manage the golf operations and the co-located food and beverage operations within the country club,
All right, stop there.
period.
To manage the golf operations.
Talking too fast.
Located in the country club,
Right, slow down.
Co-located in the country club, right. That means upstairs and down,
period.
period. Okay? Entering into the contract, recognizing and entering into the contract in the middle of fiscal 2011 will generate unbudgeted expenses. The board authorizes,
Slow down.
okay,
You said of-
recognizes that will result in unbudgeted expenses within this fiscal year.
Fiscal year. Yeah.
the board authorizes such additional expenses to a maximum of $90,000 within this fiscal year,
Yeah.
period.
Within this physical year.
Within this fiscal year, that's the important thing.
Yes.
Up to, and not,
Not
it
to-
could be
not to
less,
exceed.
not to exceed, not to exceed. You got it, Bob? I'll do it again.
Good?
Are you okay with that,
I'm
Ray?
agreed with that.
Okay, now,
I'm agreed with that.
go ahead.
Seconded.
Further discussion.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, Dave, second. Rick, go ahead, Dave. then Rick.
Okay, then the follow-on question, which was not part of the amendment, we don't have to change that. Where we get the money from?
That's not,
Where do we get the money from? We are favorable to budget through the end of this most recently concluded month, September, $80,000 favorable to budget.
Our controller just left, unfortunately.
If you'd like to verify it with that control, our controller when
Oh, I
he
don't know.
returns,
I
or
don't-
you could look at your financial statement.
I already looked at I already knew that, so obviously,
good.
yeah, well, I
Okay.
do that
Yeah, all right.
every month, Pete.
Good.
And,
But I think that answers the question. I mean, we're already $80,000 ahead of our
No, it
budget. Now, that
doesn't.
doesn't guarantee anything, and we understand that.
It
But let me
doesn't
just
answer the
address.
question at all. I
Mo-
mean, being $80,000 at any given point in time in the budget, as you should well know, Pete, is not a projection of where we're going to end the rest of the year.
I view this as an investment that we are making. And it is absolutely going to impact negatively this fiscal year.
Yes.
But for the benefit of the future years, where we will reap the benefits of this investment. If we threw up a barrier that said we shall not enter into any arrangement whereby it costs us money that's not budgeted, we wouldn't get anything
We
done.
never do anything.
Precisely. So I, for one, and I trust my fellow board members, are willing to undertake this expenditure in mid-fiscal year because it makes sense to do so for the future. We expect to recoup this investment of funds, although unbudgeted this year. Who could have envisioned a year ago that we'd be sitting here doing this? But I think it's a wise investment of Ocean Pines' money to try and right our golf operation and produce a profit. And with that, and I do want to, before we conclude and vote on this thing, I want to echo some comments similar to what John did.
I'll come back to you. Rick?
does this amendment, or what we said before?
It's a new motion, I think.
Does
It's a
this
motion.
It's a new motion.
preclude anyone from voting for outsourcing any other?
No, it does not.
service? That's what we're.
It
I'll
absolutely
speak
does
to
not.
that now
It
if you
absolutely
wish.
does not.
No, as a matter of fact, that's my intent.
That's
Go ahead,
fine, but I just wanted
Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to also echo the comments uttered a moment ago by John McLaughlin.
The distinguished John McLaughlin, please.
The distinguished senator from, seriously, I also believe that we are missing an opportunity here by doing golf only. Everybody knows my position on that. It evolved over time as we were about the business of the outsourcing task force. And I presented that, and although at the last meeting, although it was on the agenda for that particular meeting, it never came to a vote. It never formally was introduced, even though it was on the agenda. And that motion was to authorize the outsourcing of both golf and food and beverage. At the time, Dave Stevens introduced a motion with respect to golf only, with a limited amount of food and beverage, 7% of our total. And the board then voted in a 5-2 vote at the last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, I should say, to authorize the general manager and the president to negotiate terms on that basis. So my motion never got introduced. At this moment, I am opposed to the motion that I've just authored here because I believe we're better served as a community by doing both food and beverage and golf. And so I am prepared to vote against it. And if it votes in favor, then I accept, then I will also introduce the motion to amend that contract to also include food and beverage. Whatever the majority decides, the majority decides, and I will support whatever the majority decides. But at least I want the opportunity to consider one more time food and beverage. Actually, not one more time, because it never was considered. So my intent would be either way with respect to how the vote goes on the golf only, to introduce that motion, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, for the sake of discussion, Outsourcing has been tried 3 times before and failed. I believe we have enough of a handle on our internal food and beverage right now to give them the opportunity for a year to do it, and so I will not make a change on my motion.
Fine, and
No,
and I'm not asking you to expect you to. No, I think we're better served by doing exactly this way, Ray.
Okay.
Les, I'll come to you.
Bless me.
Whereas there may be financial benefit, to Billy Casper in that contract. We have no idea if it'll be a financial benefit
Right.
in the actual operation of food and beverage. And as I was before, I continue to be totally against any outsourcing of food and beverage at this present time until the current operation gets a real opportunity to do what they can do.
But, Mr. President, the motion's not
Now,
on the table.
next. Yeah, well, we're discussing this
Yeah.
motion.
We're discussing.
You just raised your objection
Yeah,
to this
I-
motion, so we're still discussing.
Yes, we are.
I have problems with it, as you probably picked up
I
during the
was suspecting
discussion
that
a
you
little
did,
bit.
yeah.
Yet, my underlying belief is that of the options, the 2 options that we have, the outsourcing for golf is the best option. Relative to, I also believe that by doing the outsourcing for golf, I mean, I would echo something Les said, except change it a little bit. We don't have any idea whether we're going to get any benefit from outsourcing of golf. We really don't. We have opinions
No
and
guarantees.
so forth, but there are far from being any guarantees. Notwithstanding all the data that the committee went and got and the work that they did. I mean, and I applaud that work, I really do. But I think what we have now is an opportunity to find out. And I believe that by finding out, we can then make a more informed decision, perhaps a year from now, as to whether or not we want to go into it. During that important year, by the way, other important things may happen. I pray to God that they will happen, such as figuring out what we're going to do with the physical structure of the yacht club, which right now is in kind of a limbo. So, this is maybe one step. It's not necessarily the final step, and it doesn't preclude.
Let me echo that, and then I'm going to call the question.
I have one comment though before.
Oh, go ahead, John, please.
I hear what you're saying, but the challenge is this. If golf does not make a profit, then this board or the next board will say, well, see, we tried it and it doesn't work. What we're talking about here is really changing a paradigm by doing both. I understand what you talked about. We've outsourced food and beverage 3 times, and it was, depending on who you talked to, was good or bad. This is different because we're outsourcing 2 of our main things, and we're giving one opportunity to leverage what we potentially have to make a profit out of both of them. Right now, we don't really have that profit. I just, I hear what you're saying. You
in
can
your
call the
opinion.
question. Well, I understand that.
Okay. Let me, my take on this is so everybody's clear where I'm coming from, and most of these guys around this table know. It's my opinion that, one, we just hired, the previous board just hired a brand-new general manager who has made it publicly clear the direction that he would like to try. I, in voting for outsourcing golf, am not closing the door to outsourcing food and beverage at some point in the future. I keep that door open. I give my one vote, I am giving Bob Thompson, the new general manager, the opportunity to perform in the thing that he's asked for. He will have 1 year to do that in order to turn that around, and I've got a 3-year term. I may not be in this chair, but I'll be sitting in this, around this table for 3 years. And if the food and beverage does not perform, we will then that period of time have an opportunity to decide what we're doing with some of the facilities around here. I, for one, we hired a brand new general manager. This is the direction that he wants to go. I know there's a philosophical difference here between what the board's supposed to do and what he's supposed to do. In my opinion, we hired him to manage this place. I'm expecting him to do it. But I am absolutely not closing the door. As a matter of fact, I have told the staff in a staff meeting that outsourcing is not closed. Ocean Pines will have people coming to our door asking to manage things for us from now to the end of eternity. There are companies in the business of outsourcing. They will always be knocking on the door. So that is my 2 cents, and I will call the question. All in favor of the motion? Say,
Okay.
unless we want to try to,
Can we make any sense out of that one more time?
Yeah, read the motion first. You have to read it.
you got it?
That's a requirement. It is. Robert's rules.
Yes, it is.
All right. Ray moved, through Pete, authorize and direct the president to enter into a contract with Billy Casper Golf to manage the golf operation facilities within and co-located at the country club. Period. Enter into contract recognizing on middle of fiscal 2011 unbudgeted expenses up to
You got a phone? $90,000.
$90,000 in this fiscal year. The board authorizes additional to maximum of $90,000 within this year. Dave, second. Where do we get the money from? And that's when I'm from there.
Yeah, we've got a few little glitches in
Yeah, we
there.
got food glitches. One
The
of-
idea is
Go
right.
ahead. The first one I noted was the absence of the word food and beverage in the
Yeah.
co-located, right?
Right, co-located food and beverage.
Before the co-located term, it's food and beverage operations co-located in the country club building, correct?
Why is that necessary? It's a country club. Everything happens in there.
Co-
Dave, are you okay with the food and beverage addition?
Yeah, just
Yeah, we should have it in there, right?
co-located food and beverages.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
Okay.
I think it was in there.
That goes back to the original
Okay.
motion.
That was
2
the
meetings
original
ago.
motion.
That was right. And I think there's some tweaking there, but I think Bob can manage that.
Yeah, I've got the golf operations and the co-located food and beverage
Within the
operation.
country.
There's some
in the
tweaking
country
with
club.
respect to the language about the fiscal year, but I think
I'll go over it.
we can figure that out. The essence of it is that we're recognizing, number one, that there are unbudgeted expenses within this fiscal year as a result of the action we're taking, and we're authorizing that, correct, up to a maximum. That's the essence of it. So we can figure out the wordsmithing of it a little bit later. Is that okay, Ray?
Yes.
Okay.
Call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
4,
Actually, it's 5-2.
5-2.
5-2.
Who was opposed?
8-9.
McLaughlin and Gomsack. Same two as last time.
Same thing as last time. Okay, let's take a 5-minute health break. Thank you. Okay, the chair recognizes Mr. Gomzak.
Thank you. As I indicated earlier, I believe in outsourcing. I believe that the two of them, food and beverage and golf combined, makes the best investment for Ocean Pines. And I'm prepared to offer a motion at this meeting for action by the board. As I said earlier also, whatever the board decides, majority rules, and I'll accept and support going forward whatever the board decides. But in the meantime, I'd like to offer this motion. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors authorize and direct the President to enter into, and this is in writing, so don't worry about it. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors authorize and direct the President to enter into a management service contract with Billy Casper Golf, which incorporates the association's entire food and beverage operations, parentheses, all locations, end parens, in addition to the previously authorized country club operations, parens, golf, and co-located F&B operations at the country club, end parens, end of motion.
Second.
Second? Discussion?
I think we've discussed it for 6 months.
Well,
6 months?
And I think,
It seems like sort of 6 months, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think in all fairness to the motion, I think it is appropriate for us to at least get a sense of where the general manager would take this, rather than blindly voting up or down on this without knowing at least partially what his answer is at this point. Okay, so let's, Bob,
And I'm comfortable with
you comfortable with that?
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll move
Okay, do you want the presentation we'll explain to with the yacht club, or do you want me to discuss? How do you want to do this? I mean, I have a
Let's do
presentation.
the yacht club presentation. It'll give us a sense.
Yeah, that puts us in context. Go ahead.
No.
Wait a minute.
Nay, I say.
Other objections?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean,
Yes.
are we gonna have we have a motion and we have a second.
And we're having a discussion,
And-
and as the president of
We're
this
having-
board, I'm calling on the general manager to present what his plans were for at least what one of our facilities is, so we have a sense of what he might be doing with it.
So
Bob,
that-
you're on.
So that means the directors can take that into account as
Yes,
they
they
debate
can.
whether or not.
Yes, they can.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Mr.
And
President.
enough of it.
Lights, please.
All right, well, notwithstanding the current motion, I was tasked with coming up with a plan for food and beverage services with the understanding that we were going to keep that in-house. So what we've done is developed a strategy moving forward with our largest food and beverage facility, our yacht club.
Nice photo.
You like that photo? It's a great picture, isn't it? It really is. Why now? Our members deserve better, better than our losses, better than what we've been providing. We're not a seasonal operation. I mean, we're year-round. We have folks that live here year-round. We need to remember that. And we cannot generate revenue if we're closed. Whether we close for a month or 2 or 3 or whatever the time period is, that we miss opportunity to serve our membership and to generate any additional revenues.
I love the Gretzky quote.
Did you like that? Yeah. You miss 100% of shots you never take, so I kind of go by that. The process that I looked at when we're doing this, determine the safety and soundness of the facility, because obviously the yacht club facility, the structure, the question with 10-year task force, everything else, we discussed this at the last meeting. Identify markets that we may be able to reach out to, develop a plan of how we may be able to address those markets, find a way to finance the project, then obviously, scope the work out and get the work completed. Then, item 6 is probably the most prevalent, market and remarket, how we're doing it. The only way we're going to be successful is for people willing to come out and use the facility. The only way they're going to come out is if we market to them, get them to come out and visit with us. And then we need to monitor and evaluate the results. It's one thing to put a plan in place, but if you don't continually monitor to see what's working and not working, you don't know how to continue to move forward with it. First thing, the building status. Soule and Associates, who's been went out and did a look at the building, and this was following the last meeting we had. I told you guys that I was concerned from the safety and soundness of the facility, because we've heard a lot of mixed messages where the facility can, is operational, if the floor is going to fall in, if X, Y, or Z are going to happen. I'm very, very pleased to say that their recent report, and I received this yesterday, and I will pass it around the table. I did not burn copies of it for everybody, just trying to be green and not necessarily print everything, but I do have a copy of this.
How long is it safe for?
What's that?
How long is it safe for?
He did not necessarily give us a determination to say it's good for 2-year, 3-year, 4-year. He is, and I don't have the letter generating the building safe. That's the actual report. I should have that letter by end of business today or Monday at the latest. But if you read it, it basically shows you that the building is sound given the current conditions. And I spoke to them directly about it and said, well, does that tell me whether it's, whether we can operate? He said, yeah, I'd shut you down immediately if I found structural deficiencies that would prevent you from operating. We do have deterioration underneath. I picked out some photos. Notice the middle photo shows some of the beams. You see the chicken wire and the insulation. That's typical under there. But it's not, the beams there, it shows down below it, the pilings, which are probably the most important thing that we're concerned about, has deterioration. We're going to need to address it. He felt 24 months was not unreasonable for expectation to continue the operation. I've asked Kerry Nelson, our from Public Works, to be here because he spoke directly with the contractor and can validate, or you can ask him any questions you'd like.
No.
Bob told the truth.
So, with that being said, I'm comfortable in my mind that the facility is safe to continue operations, given that report. The next step for me, and I passed the report out for you folks to look at. The next step was identify our market. What are the priorities? You can pass it, sure. And a term that we're using internally is ORG, which is our owners, our residents, and their guests. We need to prioritize who we need to focus on. Owners being our membership, residents, of our community, and then any guests that come to visit. I mean, that needs to be the order that we focus on. Additional opportunities of market strategy we felt were boaters, additional clubs, non-residents. You maybe have the way through marketing to attract folks to come use our facility. It's not a closed facility like a lot of people think. And then there's a lot of home businesses, and certainly in today's economic times, a lot of folks are working out of their home now. So having an element for food and beverage services designed a little differently, we may be able to attract some new customers through the doorway. We felt that we had identified those and felt comfortable what our targets were going to be. In development of the plan, we had to create a new reason for folks to come and revisit the old facility. We've got to create something new, something with more energy, something more dynamic. We also, in doing so, we have to make sure we differentiate ourselves from others in the area, other restaurants, other gathering places. We need to capitalize on our strengths, not the least of which is view. I included location. Some folks say, no, location's not good because we're in the center of Ocean Pines. I'll argue that it's great, especially for our membership, and that's our first and primary focus. And then we do have a year-round population. We're not a seasonal community. Yes, we have an influx during seasonal changes, but we have a lot of year-round residents. So we recognize that and when we're looking at developing a plan. And then to deliver it, we need to provide quality products with consistency. You can't have a good meal or a good drink or a good event one day and then come back next weekend and it be less than desirable because you're not going to create that reoccurring use of the facility. And then we have to find a way to train our employees very differently than what we have, offer real training for them, coaching, training, those type of elements, so they understand what we're looking for. We feel we can do that. We've already started to do, these are highlights of what we know that we need to focus on with our planning process. We also have the opportunity through planning to create some partnerships with some outside businesses, which I believe it should be part of our planning from a standpoint, for a coffee shop, which is one thing I'm going to show you in a few minutes, not necessarily have to fire up the ovens at 4 in the morning to make the pastries or bagels or whatever it is we're going to offer. If we have some entities within arm's reach of the community, we should try to leverage that. In addition, there's some folks that Rita's is an example that does desserts. Maybe we partner with them to provide us some desserts so we don't have to create those ourselves. Okay, I think there's some business opportunities there that we should take a look at. The other part of the plan with the facility is that we're plan to initiate and hopefully take advantage is fast, reliable internet access from the facility itself. Create a Wi-Fi hotspot. And then hopefully through these efforts, we create an environment where the yacht club becomes the community gathering place, not just for food and beverage, but also a social hub. You can plan to have meetings, or you can come by and have a coffee or have a drink after work, and see your neighbors and friends. It's a place that we want to go to as opposed to we happen along. Then we need to continue to develop our plan. Evaluation, part of the planning, as we not only looking at construction or the types of things that we may offer, we have to really put a lot of energy into training our employees. We need to make sure they understand attitude is going to make all the difference. How you approach a job, do you want to be there? How you dress when you're coming in, because that's the first thing that people see. And I think that's a big focus, and that's why I put that on there. In addition, at the ability, do all the employees in those key positions have the ability to reach this level of expectation? And that's under evaluation. That's going to be determined as we move along, but it is something we're going to pay close attention to. We need to provide product and customer service training and develop, as a part of the evaluation, secret shopper team. I've got some ideas of how to do it where we can actually get ongoing feedback and not just have one or two people, collectively put a secret shopper group together of residents that are coming in using the facility that can provide direct feedback to myself and the senior manager at F&B of how their experiences were. And we would rotate, I envision that as putting a small group together. They all don't go at once. They go as they normally would do their activities, and then they provide feedback. And that'll probably be on a monthly, or we still have to iron those out, but that could be monthly, or that could be, a per visit type of thing. But just give us some feedback of what their experience was like, good, bad, or indifferent. We believe that when you look at the yacht club, we have a rather large facility there, and by offering some multiple outlets for dining experiences could make a difference. Okay, instead of trying to serve everybody, all needs with one big facility, basically paring it down into manageable groupings. So what you end up having is multiple options under one roof. Give you something where, since we're going to go into the first step would be the coffee house. I wanted to explain I was pulling some stats. Just, as you're looking at this, you need to do some background and say, hey, does this work? Is this reasonable to consider? Even though we feel it is, I wanted to pull some statistics. Unfortunately, when you're trying to pull stats, it's only what's available research-wise, and most of mine were hours on the internet at night just trying to find additional research. Some of it's dated, 6 years old, 5 years old. That's the most current I could get on coffee stats. But National Coffee Association found in 2000, 54% of the population actually drank coffee or some sort of coffee product. Representing over 150 million daily drinkers. Now again, this is outside the community, but we need to understand the stats of actually drinkers of coffee. And 30 million adults actually drink what I keep referring to as the foo-foo coffees, the mochas, the lattes, the frappies, and all that. I don't know how they're all made, don't really know what's in them all, but it doesn't mean I don't recognize it would be a good target for us. Coffee stats continued. The average consumption for those that drink coffee is 3.1 cups of coffee a day. Now, obviously, that I'm sure it's going to depend on mug size, but it is an average. Specialty sales continue to increase at approximately a rate of 20% per year, and independent coffee shops equal about $12 billion in annual sales. 30 million, as I said, 30 million Americans drank espresso, cappuccino, latte, and what I wanted to do for those that don't know what they are, and please don't ask me which is which, as I pulled them up, I'd type in latte or mocha and I bring them up. But that's pretty much the types of drinks that we're going to recommend as an offering from the facility. Cool Beans Cafe, this is our first step. The name's not set in stone yet, but we need to have something to operate from. We're looking at creating an element, and I showed you all the plans at the last meeting. I have them again here, preliminary plans. You're welcome to look at just some rough drawings from our Public Works team. Things that we're looking at. Basically, when you come in the facility downstairs on the right side, with some cosmetic changes, we can create a coffee house environment. Those cosmetic changes would include adding a coffee bar, adding some high top tables, and on the front portion of that right hand side, creating an element of seating that's different than anything we've had before, sofas, the low seating elements, sofa, love seat, wing chairs, those type of things, to create these pockets which a typical coffee cafe would have, with the understanding that our goal is to drive new folks that would come and not only be there to run and grab their coffee and go, but sit and relax, having the Wi-Fi access. They can bring their laptop, their iPad, whatever the latest and greatest is from a connection. We'll have the internet service, piped through the facility. Morning menu would include much like the center item there, it would be in our casing would be pastries, bagels, donuts, whatever we felt, as we go through this. And again, this is where we could do some partnering with some outside folks, not just go to Cisco and say, okay, give me a frozen, cinnamon swirl that we heat up necessarily that morning. Actually take advantage of coordinating some partnerships outside, outside of our Ocean Pines product mix. Specialty coffee drinks. Again, this would be on the morning menu. You're going to offer, you know, these are drinks that you don't necessarily grab and race out the door, although we're going to have the cups that you're able to do that. But we're inviting you to come sit, you know, come relax for a little bit, come meet with a friend over there. You know, we're inviting you to come and stay a little while. Don't ask me how to make the M in there. I haven't figured that out yet. I don't know what drink that is, but I think it's cappuccino.
That would be a C.
Okay.
That would be a mocha.
A mocha. All right.
Probably mocha, yeah.
Right?
All right. There's a
Ask
menu.
John, he's the chef.
John, what is that, M? Is it
It's
mocha?
made like McLaughlin.
Okay.
Special McLaughlin.
They're gonna, they're all gonna be personalized.
We've created
You had this
a,
before.
yeah, we created a sample menu for
We've seen
those
that
that
before.
had not seen it. And again, I'm kind of bringing everything together, of opportunities of product that would be offered. And if you'll notice, it expands into the back of that menu for dessert type of drinks. In addition, additional opportunities that may be created with this type of facility, you know, local artists may want to display art, you know, in the facility. Poetry readings, acoustic artists, book clubs are all markets that we think that we can drive. Again, we're not trying to do is say, we're not a McDonald's. It's not come grab your coffee and go. It's come enjoy your stay while you're here. The whole purpose is to drive new people through the front door. Okay? And we'll market towards these items. Okay, lunch. Lunch changes a bit. And I know, contrary to at least one person here in the room, you know, not necessarily focused most of our energy into the fast food type of product, the greasy, you know, chicken tenders or fast food fried products, because we have a number of those right outside of our gates. Not that we're not going to have some type of offering, but trying to delineate and differentiate ourselves from the other folks out there, offering some lighter menu options. You know, do salads and do them very well. Do soups during you know the winter months when it's cold and do them very well. Wraps. I mean, these are all things that you know, you can get one or two of these at different locations outside or bordering our gates, but you don't have a lot of choices. We think this would be a differential for us to offer these type of products, and to include fresh fruit, you know, based on seasonal offerings. And again, I always think a picture's worth 1,000 words. If you can put it up there, you can start to visualize. And I'm figuring we're hitting around lunchtime. The only thing I didn't think to bring in was the smell of, you know, some food cooking. And if I knew we were going to be 3 hours, I would have. Trust me.
You knew it.
Yeah. Okay, dinner. One of the things that we look at with our dinner menu is how do we not only differentiate, but start to be a little more specialized. You can't be all things to all people. You know, as much as everyone would like to think they can, you really create some challenges if you can't be very good at everything. So by honing down or specifying what we want to do and what we want to do well, I think we can do a better job with our service and our quality of food offering. In addition to that, I think we need a signature dish, and that's where we put together our colossal crab cake, something that doesn't just fill the bun, but exceeds the bun. Whatever you do with a restaurant that's wildly successful, or any business, but in this case restaurants, you try to find a signature item that people go, oh, you've got to go there for this, whatever this may be. In this case, you know, that's one of the options we're strongly looking at is a good seafood right here by the coast. People coming to visit during the summer, you know, it just made sense to us. Now, with the design of the coffee bar, which serves our morning purpose, the dual purpose for the same area, including the lower top sitting area and the coffee bar itself, at night turns into a lounge and dessert bar, where you can get some of the fancy coffees, the Nutty Irishman as an example, the Almond Joy. And again, I had to look these up. I didn't know what they all were when someone brought them to me. Some of you folks will. I didn't put the standard Cosmopolitan in there, but those type of things that you want to sit. And you know, you come to have dinner, but you don't necessarily want to stand at the bar with your wife or husband while you wait for your other party to show. You can actually go sit on a sofa and have a more intimate conversation while you're waiting for your party to join. And what we're hoping that creates is more people willing to come a little bit earlier and have that first drink or that second drink. In addition, by having that area serve that dual purpose, what it does for us is also creates the opportunity, we're hoping you come here for dinner, but let's say you don't. You fend the traffic, you go to West Ocean City, you fight in town, and you come back and you're just, you're thinking, we should have got dessert. Come by the dessert bar. Have the after dinner drink. Have a slice of cheesecake or whatever the case may be. So what we're doing is we're creating some other elements that we don't currently have. If you notice the display case, it's very similar to the one that we use in the morning because it would be the same one. We pull one product out, put the other in. Not a hard switch for us. Is everybody flat because of the meeting this morning? Are we any smiles? Are we okay?
Keep going.
We're mesmerized, Bob.
Excellent. Okay, that's all I wanted to hear. I want the positive energy.
I mean, if you want to get to the bottom line, what's the cost?
We're working on it. We're not abandoning our catering strategy, because catering works for us. Well, catering happens 1 to 2 days a week at most, okay? Typically on the second floor. We're going to focus that effort there, okay? We feel that we can offer these different pieces without upsetting that apple cart. As a matter of fact, we think by having the 3 different elements that we can offer it in a unique and different way. Also, we're not completely disrupting how we position our tables from a standpoint where we can offer dinner either upstairs or down when we have catering events.
When you have catering events.
Like on Saturday or Sunday, we have a wedding or something. We still have seating on the first floor that's fine for dinner or lunch or what have you. We're not recommending we disrupt or
Okay,
close.
I missed it. Just checking on what you said. So when you have a catering event, you got the top floor. And
Second floor.
Second floor.
Yes.
And dinner is downstairs.
Would be
If you
downstairs.
don't have a catered event,
The primary dinner menu would be on the second floor. And the reasoning for that, quite frankly, is that's where our big kitchen is. We don't utilize the big kitchen that's the floor has been redone, we have great equipment in there, and we very seldom use it unless we
I'd
can.
say, that's where the kitchen is that would, I would, never mind, I'm thinking of food storage, but whatever, Joe and you all know that.
If you're looking for questions, how many people can you serve upstairs for dinner versus how many people can you serve downstairs for dinner? Because if you're talking on a Saturday night or a Friday, when you're doing these catering events, that's also the nights a lot of people go out.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you can only serve 10 tables downstairs,
No,
it gets
with the reorganization, we're losing between 4 and 6 tables. And when I say tables, 4 top tables. Okay? Notwithstanding the right-hand front side where the wooden floor is, which is often converted into dance floor, those type of opportunities. You wouldn't necessarily have dinner over there, but that's an overflow for us if we're using second floor. The other thing is the facility very seldom, if ever, is completely full. Now, elements are, parts of it are, but that means other parts, i.e. the second floor or 1/2 is completely empty. So what I'm recommending is we scale down and we be a little more specific and not have a full 2.5-story building open with all elements open all the time. Scaling it down allows us to offer a more specialized, and if we lose 4 to 6 tables, I don't think we lose that much business.
Bob,
Yes, sir.
When I was with you the other day,
Yes. Yeah.
they said that the part that's most popular is outside. They're talking about putting more tables outside.
Yeah, completely different element. Yes.
Can we serve dinner outside?
Yes, absolutely.
So
We're not.
then we're not losing any tables.
No, that's not true. You're not serving dinner outside in the wintertime.
You can do it
Yeah,
now.
Or in the
But-
buffer seasons.
But we're
No,
not.
but it's used right now outside in the summer.
Yeah,
people eat
well,
outside.
no, but there are parts that are not used in the summer. We're also not going to get a whole lot of need for a larger facility in the wintertime.
I'm not, my only question
Two
was
questions.
was that if you've got a catering event upstairs on a weekend where you're fully organized, and Saturday night is the night people go out,
Yes.
you've created a sit-down section where I can go sit and drink and have a quiet second, which means you're taking away a whole series of tables. That was my only question.
That's correct.
Okay. You can serve 200 upstairs and 100 downstairs, whatever
You know
the case
what,
may be.
and that's approximately the numbers, but I don't want to tell you exact, and I thought Joe was going to be here. I figured he could jump in on those. I don't have that
It
exact
doesn't
number.
matter, you can go on.
Upstairs,
How much?
180
180?
capacity upstairs, as I recall,
180.
right?
Yeah.
180,
Plus or minus.
Yeah, what's the downstairs?
but downstairs, under the new configuration, that's the important thing.
think it was around 90 is what I want to say.
90 now,
Yeah,
but reconfigured is gonna be less.
not much.
4 to 6 tables is what we lost. 4 to 6 4-top tables, depending on how we configure it.
25, so 90 minus 25 roughly, 60, 65?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's a good number. Yes, Les?
Just, I'm sure you've taken this into consideration. I would hope you have.
Well, ask. I'm trying.
Get ready.
If you're going to move most of your facility, your dining to the second floor,
Yes,
nobody wants to sit and dine at those 10-top tables.
Right.
correct. We've talked, yes,
So you will have
Break those
to
up.
keep switching them out.
correct.
And you have a
We have-
place to do that.
We have storage, because that was something Joe and I spoke a lot about. We not only have storage, but the capability, because catered events are where you're going to need the larger top tables, they're planned. So he can staff correctly and efficiently to roll those back, and there's some storage in the back on that floor, which is easy to, fold them up and roll them in type of deal.
And not that it matters what night it is, but in our case, people, at least in my experience over there, people don't go out so much on Saturday. They really go out on Friday. But that's got nothing to do with it.
I just picked an idea, but,
I understand.
but my thing.
And by the
is-
way, as a matter of trivia, if anybody was watching the World Series last night, they saw flashed on the screen before the game that Irish coffee was invented in San Francisco, not in Ireland.
Been to the location. It's a
All the
great-
great drinks
I have a
in
question.
California.
So Bob, I'm assuming you're changing some policies here as a result. That, because if you have a catering event on a Saturday night, and you have brunch upstairs on a Sunday, and 2 people go, I'm assuming the policy will be that before people go home at night, they will knock down and set up for the next day.
We are going to...
Whereas they don't do that now.
That is correct. And to include, completely clean the facility before you lock the doors at night. Don't leave anything unclean or you should be prepared the next morning to do business from the time you open that door.
That's a change.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Okay, but
That's
it
a
needs
change.
to be done that way.
Of course it does.
Understood.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've talked
I'm going back
extensively.
to Les's question about the 10-top.
Yeah.
And the explanation to me why I had to sit at the 10-top was we had a catering event that
No,
night,
no.
and we didn't knock it down and set it up, and my wife and I are lost in a...
Yeah, that doesn't...
We never
that-
tried to knock it down and set it up.
We haven't
That's
managed it
experience.
well.
Well, here's
right.
the challenge. I don't think we've managed that as effectively as we could or should. And if you notice, I said attitude and ability was one of the first things I pointed out for that exact reason.
Okay.
We
No,
need
that's
to do
fine.
better managing the facility holistically
Okay.
to include those exact areas. Entertainment. There's a lot of activities that most people don't know that go on. The folks that are there during the time. No, but between dancing, between the live bands, and we do a pretty good job for that window where we have different types of entertainment. A lot of different activities occur out on the deck at the yacht club. So we don't want to. We're not going to change. We're not going to stop having entertainment. We recognize this as a win for us. We're going to continue to build upon that.
Where's Les?
What's that?
That's-
It's not inside at the.
I don't know.
It's always at the bar.
No, he goes outside in the summer, right?
Okay, how to finance, which is a critical item here. When we're looking at the project and the mostly cosmetic needs, obviously I'd take a look at the budget and say this, is an unfunded expense, where would I drive money to do this? If you look back at the 2009-2010 budget, there was money allocated for HVAC that was not. Am I right? Are you stand? Oh, okay. So reach up behind me. I didn't know if I was going to get a tap there. Is the HVAC and the floor unit, or the floor in the kitchen downstairs, to be replaced. Those monies were never allocated or used, so what happened with this year's budget, they got rolled into the reserve for replacement funding. What I'd like to do is pull that money back out. We are going to do some floor repairs, and we are going to do the HVAC repair, but what was budgeted at the time was full replacement of HVAC and full replacement of that floor on the first, or the kitchen floor on the first floor. After the review, two things have occurred. A, Public Works and talking with Butch and specifically, who does HVAC for us, a group of us got together and looked, they rebuilt one of the major handlers, the large one on one side of the facility, 3.5 years ago. Okay, it's still functioning. I haven't had any issues. Does it need to be replaced in the future if we redesign the building? Absolutely. But for now, it works, and we're not, don't see any faltering in it. Yes.
That's a new piece of information, so I obviously have to.
That's why I'm
ask
sharing it
about
with you.
Yeah, it's a brand new piece. I mean, I understand, Gary, pop right in if I'm wrong. My understanding was that we were lucky to get through the past summer with those air conditionings and
I was going to go to
handling, and that any kind of a repair, just or patch up to them, would be really problematical.
Okay.
Is that not what you understood, Pete?
I agree, Dave, but my understanding, together with yours, was that we were holding our breath
Yes.
because we faced the risk of those air handlers not surviving the summer, and they were very much at risk. Is that right, Carrie? That was the assessment provided to us as a 10-year plan task force some
They are
year ago.
McCray air handlers. They've been in since the building has been in. And
Right.
Bob is correct. One of them was fixed and is functioning properly. Right. The one on the right that we've been talking about definitely needs work done to it. The parts are in the shop for whatever part we think's wrong, but you've got to go up and completely tear all the hood and everything off to get to it, which makes it a 1 to 2 week job. That's why we were always worried about it in the summer.
Right.
You could restore it to make it work. How long? I mean, I can't guarantee how long, but you can get some things to fix them. Now, whether they'll go down again, there's a good chance they will.
Are the
They're
parts
the
even
same age as the
available?
building.
Are the parts available?
The parts for the bearing that are about this one are available. It's just a bearing.
You have them.
I have the bearings in stock.
Because we made a judgment collectively, and you were part of it,
And the
that
coils,
said, let's not invest in this stuff to the extent we can put it off. We're taking a risk, but we think we're better off postponing it than doing something in light of the uncertainty
that's
about.
if we were going to replace the coils
Right,
and stuff, and you
right.
can't get the coils that are in them.
Okay,
Now, if we take them apart and that coil's bad in it, then we've got to go to Plan B.
right, okay.
And what are we talking? Plan B,
Plan B, we'd have to locate air
Price.
handlers somewhere else.
price.
The two air handlers were what, 80 grand?
The two air handlers I would have no idea what they would cost to replace them two because they're 40-ton units.
Well, we had in the
Building probably
budget,
doesn't-
we had in the budget at one
Like
time,
75.
Yeah.
Okay.
To replace
But that was to put
Brand-
a
that
pack-
80 grand.
But that was completely different. That was to put a package air handler on the
It was
roof,
more.
reduct work underneath.
Okay.
My only question was, if you have to go to Plan B, you gotta do what you just said. That's probably about 80 grand.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And we don't know that until you tear it down.
No. We know from past history that if you rebuild the cage and make it work, it should work. If we get inside and the coils are bad,
That's
then
what I'm
we're in
saying.
trouble.
We don't know that
We
until.
don't know that. We know it's cooling all summer, so the coils are probably all right.
But I think what we're looking here is a slide that Bob's saying how he's gonna finance it. What,
Yes.
and I would suggest, minor little thing, but no monies were moved to the reserves. Those monies were in the reserve, and what was budgeted was to expend from the reserve. That expenditure was not made, so they're still sitting there. Is that right?
So they're left in the reserve.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's,
I mean, what goes into the reserve is the association dues, it's related to depreciation, but those were budgeted at one point in time,
that
and we
would-
didn't make the expenditure, right?
But that would only be true, I mean, if we didn't have to make the expenditure, but we do. We just don't have to maybe do it this year. But we don't even know that.
At some point, it's gonna have to come out of that reserve account, right? But if we tear down the building, that's a whole different ballgame.
And if we're gonna fund this, whatever it is, we haven't seen that yet, but I think we look at it as an expenditure. I mean.
I think you do.
I mean, it's no different than.
I don't think you can automatically say it's not there. The expense is there. We just don't know what.
Right.
Bob,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
step 4, how to finance project. Now, specifically, what project are you talking about?
Yeah,
You're
we
talking
don't
about the
have that.
furniture, the
Correct. The-
all in?
All encompassing, and I was going to get to the rest of it.
If you're gonna get to it later, that's fine.
Well, not in great detail with the
What
numerical
dollar
amount.
amount?
Just a dollar amount.
Dollar amount for the
Project.
bar, the entire project is approximately $80,000. And I don't have all the furniture cost, I don't have the high top table, we're still pulling some of the numbers, but that includes fixing that unit, that includes fixing the floor in the kitchen. I mean, I'm not walking away from those.
No, but it's minimally fixing that unit.
Why don't we?
Correct.
I
Yeah,
think,
minimally, and we don't know whether or not
I
B
really-
has to be there.
I'm sorry, if I'm jumping.
Go ahead, I'm just, you know,
No,
I'm just,
I really would like to see what the incremental costs are, because, part of them, the air handlers and the floor in the kitchen and so forth, maybe short-term things that we have to figure out that we have to do until we get into the,
Major.
the major decision. And, and those are costs that we'll have any way or another. What we'd like to see is the marginal costs associated with your project, and
Define
Yeah.
marginal cost.
I want to know, well, take
I
out,
just want to make sure I get
take
to
out
what
the-
you're asking.
okay,
Take out the air handler and
the cost above and beyond anything that we would have to do as a normal maintenance item on the building.
I agree. And those expenses associated with the staying open later, doing the coffee bar, redesigning,
I'll give you
moving
some-
upstairs, taking the 10-top tables, replacing with those kind of costs. To support the operational
That's right.
plan.
And a few others that'll get into the operational side.
Yeah, but this
too.
is just capital.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay.
So the 80.
Let me give you, and it's not on a slide because I was going to do it at the end. And no, it's not a handout because I'm still getting information in.
Sure.
But permits and fees from the county are $500. Coffee bar area to include display case, 5.8 cubic foot refrigerator, cash register, espresso, cappuccino unit, toaster, ice bar, hand sink, miscellaneous and shipping, taxes, items above is approximately $23,000. Countertops, casework, base finish, washable service behind the cabinet area, porcelain floor tile in and behind the work area because you have to have that, sheetrock, wood and trim, paint, miscellaneous, $4,200. Plumbing, electrical, in the bar area, behind the cabinetry area, subtotal of $3,000. Exterior walls that need some repair and sheetrock, trimming, painting, tooling, installation of window paint, all in the estimate of $3,250. Upper radius of lower columns, studding, sheetrock, base trim for the other parts come to $2,000.
no, you don't.
Column extensions, we have to do something with the 8x8 columns and work around those to include tooling and labor, $6,000. What I don't have are the actual costs for the sofa, chairs, love seat combinations. We're still getting those. And I will tell you, it's not due to lack of pulling information up, it's just trying to get a reasonable design to put the maximum amount in there for sitting.
Sure, but those numbers you just gave, which I didn't try and write down because I'm sure you're going to give them to us.
Yeah, it's
42?
just under 50, yeah, it's
Under
about-
50,000, yeah.
Yes.
And, all right.
Does that include the sail for the sailboat that's been without sails up
No.
above the second floor for the
No,
last
sir,
25
that
years?
does not include
I
that,
think
but if
we
you
have-
want me to,
I
I
would
will.
absolutely think that ought to be made decent.
Bob, what I think you just presented was, if we just do the status quo in terms of the operations,
Yes.
making no changes as you're contemplating, we would still have some things to fix up, right?
Well, they weren't
And about-
included in that list,
No,
though.
no.
Were they?
About half of the 80 relates to those fixing up things, the air handlers, et
Correct.
cetera.
Correct.
The other 42, or half of the 80,
Okay.
relates to the to support the revised operational plan.
Yeah,
Am I right?
That's the point that you
Okay.
got to address, yeah.
That's half of 40, 40 for that, 40 for
40,000,
other, okay? So it's under 50.
Yes,
And that's just capital.
Correct.
That's just capital.
Now, you may have to hire a sous chef and a pastry chef and all that sort of stuff, but you'll get to that later.
Not if we outsource. Right?
Not if we outsource one.
Not the pastries and the desserts, like I said we would do. I don't need the chef to make pastries.
I'd like to see outsource those specialty fancy drinks.
Well, you could, I don't know where though.
I don't know. I don't expect that I could go over to Whiskers and get one of those guys.
They're very.
No, I don't think you
Probably
could.
not.
Or
Depends on who you
anyplace else.
ask.
And
for
to that
matter.
point, Dave, what we're trying to do is create something a little different than what you can get
Yeah.
at either Whiskers, at McDonald's, at Bagels and, at Taylor's, or at the Village Inn,
Well,
or other.
I guess what I'd expect to see, you know, and I'm sure you're working on it, not now, but is a mini business plan that says, okay, here's what our operating costs are going to be. You know, how many people we're going to have to bring in at that time in the morning. You know, what's the payroll going to be? Also take a look at, you know, what is the cost of these things, and you know, what's our marginal profit going to be on top of them. Am I in tune with you there, Bob?
Yeah.
I'm giving you as much as I've gotten so far.
No.
I did not have intent to
Not
spend.
talking about so
answering the
far. Not
question.
talking about so far.
Let me finish the presentation. It
Okay,
doesn't include
sure.
all those numbers. If you all want a more specific business plan, timing's gonna be, it's just, you're gonna delay a project even that much longer. I'm getting real numbers for things, but from the staffing issues, we have people we pay now that are in staff positions. We're gonna just rearrange their scheduling, but I can, if I need to create all that to make this happen, then that's what we'll have to do.
Well, that's what I would call.
I think in order to do it so that you convince I know you're convinced, but you convince yourself financially, you would have to have a projection.
Perhaps a pro forma.
And obviously, that didn't work out so well this morning, so I mean, I can create one for you guys, but I guarantee you, whatever I create, you guys are going to say yes, no, and different.
The projections.
It's a projection of what we think we can do with it. The money in the morning for the coffee bar is to create new people through the door. I don't know what numbers that's going to create right now. That's part of the
Understood. The concern that I personally have is that we just put a not to exceed $90-some-odd thousand in an amendment. So we got to be careful that we don't add another $50,000.
Well, this is different.
Well, I
I
understand.
know it's different. That's John's point.
But, yeah,
It's on top of.
That's on
Okay.
top of that.
Let me finish the presentation. You guys can decide what you want to do with it. Construction
We
work.
love you, Bob. We got it.
No, I understand, we've got business to do, so let me get it to you and you all decide what you want to do. Construction work, okay? Working with Joe Costello the last couple weeks, he has painstakingly gone through numbers, figures, the upstairs from the handler unit, fixing the floors, we're on that. That's why Carrie's here to validate what I'm giving you. Joe Reinhardt has been working on the equipment, and that's, you know, part of what is in the budget here that I'm telling you about. Kerry Nelson's working with Souley and Associates. Make sure the facility is sound, we can work out of it. Butch, working on the HVA solutions, along with Kerry's group. And Dave Schwarten is working on the internet solutions. Okay? So all these are part of the numbers I rattled, with the exception of the internet solution, which is in the range of $1,500 to $3,000, depending on the type of service that we employ. What I have to do, we're just waiting for some additional numbers there. The high end would be 3. We're guessing it's going to be a lot less by a different strategy there. Okay? Market. We need to turn marketing up for everything we do, as an association in general. We're currently using our e-blast. We intend to certainly utilize that as part of our strategy to market our facility changes. Website, to include the potential of virtual tours of the new design inside. You know, get people to see it before they even come, to hopefully entice them to say, hey, it's worth coming over to take a look. Gift certificates, posting daily specials. Again, the daily specials, if you post them, we can put them on the boards. You know, when you come in the community, we can do those type of things on our website. But if we get people in for, the whole thing is drive new people in through the breakfast to grab a cup of coffee, those type of things. Hopefully have the postings for the lunch or dinner specials there, so you're getting more opportunities created. Email promotions, print and signage, and social networking. Certainly if we're doing an internet type of cafe, social networking needs to be part of it.
So we talking about putting an LCD out at the south gate and the north
Not
gate?
under this project, but part of the budget for next year, we're going to talk about different types of signage and marketing strategies.
Because the reason why I ask is when you talk about posting daily specials, hell, I go by these signs almost every day when I ride my bike, and they're the same sign a week later
Understood.
advertising something that hasn't changed. You know, I mean,
Joe Howley? Everybody?
no, my
He's a pedal guy.
pedal bike. So, I mean, you know, I'm just,
Beach running,
just curious.
No, not in this plan.
Okay.
And there's the question slide. So that's what I have, that's what we're working on. It's within, I mean, there's numbers in there. I feel the challenge is, I can, again, you guys are asking, if you weren't specifically asked for certain things, I'll get them for you. I believe, I'm very confident that with the numbers that I'm referring to, with the numbers that were in the budget to do some of the repairs, that we can pull this off and we can do it very quickly. You know, I'd like to take advantage of the holiday season. We have a lot of people that are coming in here through, you know, the November/December timeframe, where I think it's a great time to roll this out and get ahead of it before the spring.
Great answer to my question, thank you.
I got one good answer today.
No, I was curious about the timing, and there is a relevancy to doing it today that speaks to the holidays coming up, Thanksgiving, and more people being here. You're trying to get this to move forward, is that correct?
Correct, and there's a lot of cosmetic work that, quite frankly, in talking with Kerry and his team, they're going to do a lot of the work, the building of the cabinetry, and that in their shop. So they'll come
Don't let
in.
the building hold you up. We've always had to work on the building. As a task force, we're not telling you that the task force, we still believe there's long-term problems.
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
short-term, Bob's not, he didn't say that about long-term.
I understand.
We're talking about short-term.
Right, I understand.
One of the things
We're not gonna fix it before the month's.
But-
one of the things I got out of the briefing is that this place isn't going to fall down in the next 2 to
Correct.
3 years. One of the concerns we had about contracting out food and beverage was that we were going to close it down next year, and therefore it did not make sense to contract out food and beverage. So, I mean, that, based upon your comment, takes that off the table.
No, I don't think at all. I think they're two separate issues. I think the problem with when we're going to contract the yacht club out, you know, for major renovation and so forth, has a couple of significant questions and hurdles before we get to that point. But there's no, it's certainly, and very likely, it's certainly not going to happen next year, but it could very well happen the year after that.
I would
And that
hope
would
so.
be, and right in the middle, we would hope so, I think, really.
But my point is that we said it wasn't going to collapse. It's good for at least 2 to 3 years, is what I heard coming out of this briefing.
To John's point,
Yeah.
just to bring us back to where we are in the meeting, we are in discussion on a motion. This was in your point, John. I wholeheartedly agree with you that that is a very important issue,
Yeah.
that we are not on the verge of a building collapsing on top of us. So that is something that was at one point, as you know, one of my concerns about outsourcing food at this point, because we may have to tear the building down. So I had the same, so I think your point's very, very good. Rick?
I just want to say that I support Bob's efforts and we should let him go and do what he needs to do to get this ball rolling. You know, I think that by having those projections yourself will teach you where the profit is. Because you can think one thing in a very different way. The numbers really are. So go ahead and, to me, go ahead and get started and do it. And as you're moving forward with projections also. Move forward and let's get going on it.
Well, there's
Create
one
the
question
business
that Bob
plan.
hasn't, there's another question that Bob hasn't answered. And that is, how much of his time as general manager is going to be diverted from being the general manager to the general manager of the yacht club?
We
Okay.
hired him to do that.
No, we hired
I
him.
beg your pardon.
We hired
not.
him. And these are all Bob's ideas that have been put in place from Bob. Am I correct, Bob? They're basically your ideas.
Coordination with the rest of the team.
You know what I'm saying?
The answer's yes.
Yes, okay. So I'm concerned that, you know, being a general manager is a major task, and getting this up and running is also a major task. And he, in essence, is going to become very heavily involved to the yacht club. And what is gonna suffer? I don't know. I think it,
May I comment on that?
sure.
You guys hired me to come in and manage the holistic, this is a company. Okay, that's how I look at it. This is one arm. We have two areas that continue to, quite frankly, bleed out every year. That's our losses at the yacht club and our losses at golf. The strategies that are before us right now give us two great ways to stem those and hopefully turn them around. We need to, in my opinion, yes, there's time that will be consumed, but if you notice, one of the biggest things I put on that slide, and I highlighted it twice, was attitude and ability. If our current team in place, the unique part about the timing right now is we're not amidst our biggest and busiest season. By allowing us to do these things now and start to evaluate our team and start to decide, is this the team moving us forward before the spring selling season when it really gets busy? This is the ideal time, not only to evaluate, but to start to set policies and procedures in place before it gets, we hit that summer.
Yes.
And from running a business, that's exactly what I'm looking at. This makes sense to me. Both of these strategies that were discussed at length today make sense to keep this association moving forward with my focus on customer service and driving revenues.
Customer service for all your,
Okay. But here's another.
Holistically, correct.
If I remember the initial study that came out of your team, it was the place with the opportunity for the most profit, most revenue gain was the yacht club. The least place was the golf course.
Well,
And
the
yet
two,
we're
we viewed exactly right, John. We viewed as the better opportunity for profit improvement, revenue enhancement of being at the food and beverage operations.
I don't think
And
you'll
Bob
need-
is actually, I think, supporting that by saying that, as you've looked at it as general manager, you see really good opportunities for us to expand, to attract more members here, more business, increase the top line, right? By changing the strategies and marketing, improving the product, improving the consistency. All the things we said about outsourcing, Bob is, I think, echoing, correct?
Correct, yet the difference
The
is
opportunity is there.
we can do it.
My question is, could we not have done both in-house and be successful at it?
No,
My honest-
proven we can't do the
My
golf
honest
course
opinion
thing.
is, and that's why I gave a
No,
little
it's
history
not.
on this.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Ray, to say what you just said is like saying to prove that we can run the yacht club, which we have failed to do over the years. If you take a look at what we saved last year, it was a result of cost cutting, not a
Correct.
result of
Cost cutting.
increased revenue.
Revenues went
Gotta
down.
be a profit
Okay,
center.
so the
You
bottom
can't
line
have
is,
revenues continuing to.
could we do
Right.
both in-house successfully?
I believe the fact of the matter is, and I showed the slides earlier, we've gone from 800 plus members down to let me finish my sentence. You're asking me, I'll answer you. Okay, in addition to a lot of the concerns that come on every year, every time we talk about golf, I believe it is in our best interest to seek outside opportunities in golf. Where it differs from the yacht club, in my opinion, is we have a prime location that we, I believe, internally can capitalize on if we put the right energy and focus into it. And will that take some of my time? It will, but that's part of the part of the overall strategy.
Okay, but the
I was gonna
same
ask this-
thing.
I was going to ask this question earlier, and didn't get a chance.
Okay.
I raised my hand earlier, it wasn't recognized, that's
We'll
okay.
forget you.
But here's the
Come back to
question.
you.
Oh,
Give Pete a chance to talk.
He's smiling.
I never get a chance.
I know that.
somebody get me a towel.
Seriously, do you
How about a dirty
anticipate,
handkerchief?
do you anticipate in this plan having to hire additional resources to get it done?
To manage it through the winter
People.
season,
Yes.
potentially one or two additional staff.
My
Given
point-
our current staffing,
Right.
well, I believe.
We only have 3 full-time employees in food and beverage.
We have several, numerous part-time, more
But
than
we
you
have
might
3 full,
recognize.
so you're doing, besides the $80,000 in capital, you're envisioning spending additional monies, and you have to. I mean,
You have to.
You have to. How
But
about,
with the upside of driving revenues.
no, I understand, I understand.
I understand it's all about
But the answer is, how about new positions? Will you be creating new positions?
we could potentially create
Potentially,
two
okay,
new
that's fine.
positions.
Okay.
My
Maybe
other
three,
thing
depending
is-
on the hours of operation.
Bob, are
Yeah.
you gonna need Billy Casper to help you?
I do not need them to help me
Thank you.
manage the yacht club.
Well, that's, my
right.
point is that you also said that, you know, we have a unique location, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
Well, in your previous slide, when we talked about the golf course, we said we have a unique golf course, and that it's a Trent Jones golf course. So on one hand, we're saying we have a unique thing, but we can't manage in-house. On the other hand, we have something, a unique thing that we now say we can manage in-house. Both over my tenure living in the Pines has shown a decrease in revenue across the board. So the question is, as the general manager, could you do both and save us $100,000 on the motion that we just passed?
Yeah, well, you're
Oh,
taking-
actually, I think he could.
taking-
I've said all along that all
Well,
we need at the golf course
Just hire
is a
Bob
new
Groby,
ball.
take care of it.
Absolutely.
Another pro.
Okay.
Absolutely.
My point is that Bob has always been, you know, looking to say, you know, he believes that outsourcing the golf course has always been, you know, primary, that you could run the club. As a general manager, you're tasked with both, okay? Could you do both successfully? Well, I don't think we've ever asked you that question.
Hang on, Ray, you had your hand up.
I've been involved in Ocean Pines as an employee or whatever else it is for 12, 13 years. And the problems that they've had at the golf course over the years very often were because the board of directors or members of the board of directors were always in there fiddling, controlling, moving things around, making changes year to year to year. And they did exactly the same thing at the yacht club. We now have an opportunity to have somebody change that. We keep our bloody hands off of it except for approving what he wants to do and give the guy a chance to do it, and I think he can.
Bob, I'm not misquoting him, I don't believe, but Bob has said he'd like the opportunity to turn around the yacht club. He's also said this outsourcing of the golf is a good thing. Is that those quick statements?
In my opinion, that,
Yeah.
I believe both of those, yes.
So therefore, I conclude that he feels he can do the yacht club, but he doesn't feel like he can manage the golf courses effectively.
I think the resource, please understand, guys, I'm confident enough in my ability to say I can run it all. But I also have to realistically say, you know what, what's the right decision for the community? That's what you've hired me to do. The right decision is putting the right management teams in place to run each of the lines of business. In this case, I do not think that we have the depth or scope, i.e. the golf experience, okay, from the systems to the reach out to 250,000 potential new clients to come in and use our course. We're just not set up for that. So could we do that effectively? I don't think so. And it's reasonable for me to sit here as a general manager and say, I have to look at the whole pie. This is one I'm willing to say, let's allow them. Guys, this is not an end-all be-all. This is a 3-year contract, which we can break in 18 months with no harm, no foul. So we should take some strategies, look at the big picture. My big thing right now is looking at each of our different lines of business. I know that's always dirt. Lines of business are amenity. Quite frankly, they're lines of business. I need to create value to our membership, okay? And that's what I'm planning to do here. But we need to employ some very new strategies. I think outsourcing golf is the right strategy, and I believe with our current team and with some additional investment, we can make it work under these conditions.
I think one of the biggest values of this proposal that we've just heard is, I don't know whether it'll be successful or not. No one does. Bob may have better insight on that than we do. But if it is, it'll be something new and different that's never been done before.
Right.
And the people that it does bring in won't be us. It'll be new people in the yacht club, a whole different thing. That's the value of it.
I'd like you to come too, though.
Yeah.
You're all invited.
I'll probably.
You got a long neck beer in the morning? Okay, I sort of liked all the pictures too, Bob. I mean, it looks good. I mean, and I also really do like the idea of new ideas. I mean, so.
The issue.
But I'd also like to know, and like to see, whether or not, what on what basis you believe you can improve our performance.
Well,
I
it
mean-
can't get worse.
Well,
Just FYI, no, we're
wait a
talking
second.
about.
It was worse 2 years ago.
I heard a parade of people championing the other meetings, how great things are.
No, listen.
As a matter of fact,
Let me finish. It can't get worse from a revenue standpoint. We can manage down expenses until we close business, each entity at a time. That's up to you guys.
A few more years of that and you're out of business.
You're out of business. Right now, what I'm proposing are, in a $13 million budget, when you're looking at between $70,000 and $80,000 investment, of which 50%, 40 to 50% is going into infrastructure needs that we have to do anyway, fixing the floor and doing something with the HVAC system. And I'm telling you, I can buy you a year or two or possibly 3 till the board and the residents can decide what we want to do with the overall facility. During that time frame, I might have the opportunity to drive new revenues, create something special over there, and show that it's worth either renovating or rehabbing. I think it's a good business decision.
Okay.
Okay, let me just say that it can get worse. It can get worse if you don't increase revenues and you do increase costs.
Or the costs go up more than the increase in revenue.
Or the more costs go up more than the increase in revenues. All we're looking for is your
Metaphorically, a meteor
projection.
could hit me today, and
Time, yeah, watch crossing the street, please. The issue on the table, in my mind, is basically, do we, and for all intents and purposes, do we extend the outsourcing to cover food and beverage? We've already voted to do the golf as outsourcing. The question to me comes down to, do we want to hire Casper in as the management of food and beverage to support what you just saw behind us? Because I think it's a great, I don't think anybody's poo-hooing the concept of what we just saw.
Casper wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
They don't have any idea about this.
yeah, well.
Excuse
We
me?
don't know what they'll do.
You don't know.
What?
But
All right, let's not get into
anyway,
that
Let's not get
again.
into that.
it's neither here nor there, you know.
Yeah,
Wow.
the issue on the table, and we have a motion which would expand the outsourcing. Pete, you made the motion, John, you
Seconded.
seconded. Anything else you want to say in support of this?
Yes.
Before I call the question?
I
Go
do.
ahead.
I intend to vote for the resolution because I believe $24,000 is a reasonable expenditure to make to get the expertise and the experience and the marketing, so forth and so on. On the other hand, I want to make it very, very clear that I am very encouraged by Bob's presentation, by his plan, and I think the outsourcing to Casper or the insourcing through Ocean Pines seem to have the same objectives, and I applaud that. It's a recognition on the part of the organization that we need to do something different than we've been doing, that the status quo is not acceptable. We need to drive additional business. There is a correlation between how we do this going forward and what ultimately becomes of that building and what the community approves in any referendum. They need to see a better product before that decision can be knowledgeably made. And so I'm confident that either, I don't know how the board is going to vote on this, but if they vote against it, as I said earlier, I'll be fully in support of what Bob's plan is and do everything I can to help it. Again, I think the objectives are the same as we're trying to achieve with the Casper, so I'm very happy with that.
I would reiterate, I agree with everything you said, except that if he doesn't put a hamburger on at lunch, I won't go.
Let me add that I'm the one.
Rayco wants a hot dog and he wants a tuna fish sandwich, so there you go.
And I want french fries, okay? You know. All right, one last round. Any more comments? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You opposing it?
No, I'm sorry. I'm a late yes.
You're a late, yeah.
Can you just tell me?
John, you just got
I wouldn't make you happy, John. I wouldn't leave
You're hanging me out there.
Get John.
I get surprised every now and then.
Okay, well, this is an interesting one.
Very good. Okay.
Okay, we can move on.
I
gotta go put 2 to 5.
It's 2 to
2 and 5.
5 to 5.
I move that we close the meeting.
Well, we've got public comments, and we need to, well,
Go to lunch.
is there
I got some
a,
things I gotta do.
well, the question on the table is, at this point, does he have the authority to move forward with concerning, in his eyes, the budget money is there to do it? and it's within his purview as the general manager to manage, or do we as a board want to see, a more robust business case before he moves forward?
I personally want to see a business case. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated, but I mean, it does have to be a business plan. I mean, you're talking about changing operations, a short plan that shows the numbers and what you expect to achieve before we vote for another 50,000 or 40,000, whatever it costs.
Based on what?
Yeah.
How are you gonna get that stuff?
Well, you know what? You can figure out what the additional personnel costs are going to be. You can figure out what the food costs are going to be.
How about a
You
little
can
leap
get
of
you can
faith?
get some idea what the margin is going to be.
Sure you can.
You can do all of those things.
But you can't figure out how many new people are gonna walk in.
No, but you can set a target and say this is the number of people we need to break even.
I'll make a motion that Bob is authorized to go forward with a not-to-exceed out-of-pocket capital expense of $85,000. That's basically the figure I've heard you throw out here.
No.
Am I right? For capital
that
expense.
But that would include HVAC and the floor.
That's exactly right.
So,
Okay, go ahead.
And I would add, if I may, not more than half of which will be associated with the revised business plan. Meaning the other half, we're going to need to do anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, is that okay?
I'm going with that leap of faith that you would,
Yeah.
what you briefed us, it's about $40-some-odd-thousand in equipment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Just
Yeah.
under,
Yeah.
85,
please
yeah.
understand, just under
Yeah.
50,000 in those,
No.
and it,
And the reason why I did not bring up the personnel issues is I firmly believe regardless of whether we had contracted out or keep it in-house, you got to bring back people in to give us the consistency of service that I believe any operation needs.
Right.
Okay? The rest of the stuff that you put up there, the training, et cetera,
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Ray,
Ray
second.
seconded.
Pete seconded.
He said, it's my voice again?
Yes.
Discussion.
I
Yeah.
beat you this time.
Right here.
Discussion, sure.
Okay, I don't know whether or not this needs an amendment of a motion or not, but I'd like to know, okay, should this motion pass, and I will vote against it, but not because I don't like the ideas, but because I haven't the information. But if it passes, will the general manager, and we have Art right here too, whoops, I woke him up.
No, I'm listening.
You're listening. Will the general manager report back on a reasonable basis, monthly, whatever, on exactly what we're gaining and losing by these changed operations? More specifically, for example, the morning operation, the coffee house. Are we making money
oh, wait a
from it?
minute,
or
don't
not?
we do I'm required to do a quarterly report, right? Which I do bring that, and we also provide monthly numbers, and what additional to that do you want me to
No,
do?
I think, if I can speak for you, what I think I hear Dave saying is segregate out the new things we're doing. That's what I hear you saying. Is that correct?
I'd like to know the costs, so yeah, I'd like to see a profit loss, a mini profit loss associated with the, shouldn't be a problem.
Well, yeah, I agree, but let me just suggest this. Rather than redo our chart of accounts to capture all new, why don't we just have a supplemental report from the general manager, accompanied by...
that's exactly what I'd like.
Yeah, you're
That's what he's
right.
asking.
With whatever accompanying financial information can be gleaned from that, without redoing our chart of accounts and having new financial statements and new line items. We don't overcomplicate it.
Okay, I'm not accepting that as part of my amendment, okay?
Right.
I think that can be done over and above. I think first we've got to give him vote up or down. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I want to know whether or not we're making profit. You know, but if not, we can change it. But we got to move forward.
Well, we got an agreement to that anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let me say this, you cannot,
How's it working?
you have to look at the whole picture. You can't look at breakfast only. You have to look at the whole picture. So I want him to segregate out how's breakfast doing, how's lunch doing. Because breakfast will be doing okay, but people who came for breakfast and enjoyed it may come back for lunch. So you have to evaluate the whole day,
It's kind of
the whole
fair.
month.
Well, we're gonna look at the overall revenues and whether or not they increase or not, for sure. I'm gonna get that, but I wanna know
We
why.
have right now a supplemental report to come to the board on this community center over here We could have a supplemental report for an interim basis
We've
to
agreed
see.
we'll do that.
You know, we could do
It's-
something like that.
Shouldn't be a big
Not big
problem.
deal. We don't need to make it, in my opinion,
No, wait a
part of the
minute, wait a
motion.
minute, wait a minute. Since
No, I
it's my
agree.
responsibility, I want to make sure we're clear. You want a detailed report on how many bagels we sell, you want a detailed report on how many salads we sell.
No, I don't.
Not.
If I wanted that, I would have said it.
No.
What is it you're
No.
asking for? A supplemental report to how the yacht club does it.
I
So
think what he's asking, Bob, is
MD&A.
how does,
Yeah.
when you take your profit and loss, you break it down
How's it
by breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as this is a new concept, just how it's going. It's nothing that you wouldn't do automatically anyway.
Okay.
Okay, I don't see it being anything different.
I think you can do it now.
Perfectly reasonable.
It's not an issue.
I don't think we do it now.
Any other comments? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Public comment.
Everybody worn out?
No, I'm not. This whole thing, this whole discussion just seems to amaze me how you can use the same argument for one item and against another. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I want to go back to one of the things that I heard Dave say earlier in the golfing discussion. But everyone seemed to say, let's ignore it, we don't need that information. We're going to pay Casper $90,000 to manage for the next 6 months. We're projecting during that period of time, the golf's going to lose with that $90,000, $295,000. Now, what can Casper do over the next 6 months to either improve our revenue generation or to reduce costs to lessen that projected deficiency? I think we should ask them. And we should ask them to give us a report on what they project that they're going to do for the next 6 months. Or are we going to live with what we have projected and accept the fact that we're going to have a $295,000 projected loss at this point in time?
It's not
With no revenue, we'll have 85% of our revenue by the end of October. So there's not a whole lot they're going to do to increase revenue. But we will have only spent 54% of our operating budgeted costs. There's still a lot that can be done with that next 46%. Let's at least ask Casper, what are you going to do to help us improve the golf bottom line for this next 6 months? We're paying them. Let's ask them some questions.
Seems a reasonable.
They'll be giving us that feedback.
But it's not what they're doing for the next 6 months. What's going to happen in the spring? If they increase our reservations by 50% by April, they've done a great job. We've never had any revenue for the last 6 months, but they've increased our spring.
And if you look at the pro forma, one more data point I just want to point out to you, that everyone doesn't really want to get involved with the numbers, but the numbers are where the answers are, that they're only projecting to increase the number of golf rounds in their first year over what we've had, about 2,200 rounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of their projected revenue are in budget line items that are very, very questionable as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we.
Everybody's got their own
Early response, I can.
Everybody's got their own opinion.
Always double.
Time will tell.
Opinion, that's
Yeah.
numbers.
Numbers double.
That's exactly what they're
We've had
saying.
a
They
very-
said that from the beginning. It's
Yeah,
going to
we've got-
start slow,
Tom.
build up.
Tom?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to
Name
say,
and address, please.
oh, okay, Margaret Long, and I just want to say that I'm very supportive of the changes that Bob has brought up and approved, and I'm very proud of all of y'all, the changes. That's all.
I just wish we could have done it quicker.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Other comments?
Could you bring some friends next time to?
Comments?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
No, well, press.
Pete's
How about the
house
press?
for lunch.
How about the press?
Press?
Good. I make a motion
How
that we
about
adjourn.
retired press?
Adjourn.
Thank you.
Second. Done. Thank you.